called daycare provider Larissa Roberts and her boyfriend Paul Dukin for the return of pictures and family heirlooms. Larissa and Paul are countersuing for storage fees and pain and suffering.
Yes, case number 202 on the calendar in the matter of Jorg versus Roberts Dukin. All right, been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Jorg, the defendants were friends of yours, according to your complaint, and there came a time when you were being evicted from your apartment. You stored some things at their home, according to you. The storage lasted a little bit longer than anticipated. When you called and said you wanted your stuff back, they say it's gone. When did you start to store your property at the defendant's house?
In March, my apartment building had gotten sold, and a new owner came up, took over.
Let's keep it simple. March of 2003, you were being evicted.
Yes.
When did you have to get out of your apartment?
I went to court and stuff, and I had to get out till June 16th.
And where were Miss Roberts and Mr. Duncan supposed to store your things?
She was over helping me, and she said that she could help me store my stuff for nothing. I was in a hard time, and she had the money to help me, that she could help me.
I want you to answer my questions. Where was she supposed to store your property?
In a storage shed behind her house.
Is that right?
It's my shed on my property.
And did you move the property to your house and the storage shed, or just the storage shed?
To the storage facility, because the people
What do you mean the storage facility? That's where we're coming into a problem.
Into a storage unit.
When did you move the property from your house into a commercial storage facility?
The same day.
Why?
Because I couldn't fit it in my shed.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
No, she didn't.
Yes, it was discussed.
No, you did not.
So you moved her things from your house, where you said that you would store it, and your shed, into a commercial facility the same day you got the stuff?
Yes.
You have the bills from the storage facility?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them. Well, this says that on the 16th of June, she started a storage facility, and that September of 2003, some 3 months later, was the last month that the property was there. Is that right?
Yes.
When did you find out that
Your Honor, I went by her house on June 21st on a Saturday, and I went to go see if I could use the telephone, and I pulled up in her driveway, and her little daughter was in the window. I went and knocked on the door, nobody came, and up in her driveway behind the fence sat all of my stuff out in the rain.
You saw that?
Yes, I did.
So what did you do when you saw that?
I went to the door and I knocked, nobody answered. She called and left a message on my phone. My message told me not to come to her house without calling before I came up.
If you saw your property that was out in the rain, why
I couldn't get back behind there. It was locked and she wasn't home.
Just a second. You get the police and say, she has my property, it's being ruined, I want to take it, and I'll put it in a storage facility.
Right. Well, I didn't have the money at that time to do it, and she offered to do it for nothing. And Michelle here knows that she was in the house that day that I knocked on the door.
She may have been in the house when you knocked on the door, but what I'm saying to you is, if you say you saw your property on that day, why didn't you get your property off her property?
I had no way of even hauling it, in my car. I had no way of doing it. And I tried calling her on August 2nd.
Well, what did you think she was going to do with it after the 25th?
She was supposed to put it in her storage unit. Every time she took stuff over there, I said, do you have enough room? Yes, we're rearranging. It'll all fit in there. Soon
after she took your stuff, you knew that it wasn't in a storage shed behind her house, and it wasn't in her house. What did you do between June and September to get your stuff?
She said everything was safe, put away, and it wasn't sitting out there.
But you knew that that wasn't true.
No, I went back by, and it was not there anymore. And I called on August 2nd.
I'm not talking about August. I'm talking about June.
I know,
July.
but August 2nd, I called to get my stuff back because I was ready to get my stuff and move it. And she wouldn't let me have it.
Okay. Step up here, please.
Michelle?
Tell me your name.
Michelle Delker.
You know anything about this?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to hear what you know about it.
I was over at Paul and Larissa's on a weekend, and she was talking to Helen, and I overheard a conversation that she was willing to help Helen with packing and moving, and she knew Helen didn't have the money to get a storage shed, and so they were going to help her out and get it for her.
For how long?
Until she got on her feet.
What if it took 5 years? How long? How old are you?
I was on for 2 weeks.
Shh. How old are you?
I'm 49.
When was the last time you were on your feet?
Just prior to, well, I lost my apartment in June, and then I got another place to live in August.
Prior to losing your apartment in June, madam, what you're telling me is that you didn't have $30 a month to give to a storage unit. It suggests to me that you hadn't been on your feet in a long time. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
Okay. So
but she knew what my income was, what I was getting, and she said that she had the money, and she told me she would do it for nothing. She wanted to help me out because she knew I had...
Would do what for nothing?
Store my stuff. And she,
in a storage store your stuff in a storage facility.
At her house. No, at her house.
No. Listen to me. We're not going to play with each other. According to you, she said she knew you didn't have any money, and she was prepared to pay for the storage of your stuff because she was prepared to help you out that way.
Right.
Well, paying for it means in a commercial facility.
She had offered that, and I told her not to do it because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. And then she came over one day and said she had already rented it because they were going to use it, and that if she had to, she'd put some in there.
So that was after you saw your property out in her backyard, according to you, on June 25th. You can sit down now.
No, she offered the storage unit and said she had went and got it before I had seen it on her property.
So you knew then, Miss Jorg, that she was going to rent a storage unit to put your things in.
I didn't authorize her to put it in a storage unit.
What happened to her things?
They were in the storage unit. Come August, her boyfriend started calling and threatening me on my answer machine. He said that he didn't want to do anything to put him back into prison. I had to change my phone number.
Well, let me ask you this question. When she called for her stuff, what did you say to her?
I wanted reimbursed for the storage unit.
And how much was it that you wanted to be reimbursed?
$300.
How much did you pay for the storage unit?
It was about $300, all total, because there was late fees, because I couldn't pay it on the 1st of every month.
And how much of your stuff was in there?
Nothing.
And you're telling me that all these figures add up to $300, is that right?
I do believe so.
All right. When did you ask her for your property back in August?
I called her August 2nd, and I called her about 11:30, and
Is that true?
It was her and her boyfriend that was calling.
Was it around August 2nd?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But I called her...
So then I'm eliminating certain amounts of money, everything that was billed after August 1st, because you weren't entitled to $272 on August 1st. There was money added. So let's figure out what she owed you as of August 1st, if she owed you for this.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You sold Wayne the Hitachi, and he just paid the storage fees.
Yep.
You're a liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire.
And later today...
They had got mad at me because I switched babysitters, and so they called my mom and dad and told them that they needed to come get my stuff because they were kicking me out.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Helen George says former friends Larissa Roberts and Paul Dukin won't return her belongings. Larissa and Paul claim Helen wasn't paying her storage bill.
Okay. Now, at that point, she owed you maybe $138, and that is if I believed that there was nothing of yours in the storage shed, something that I find it hard to believe, that you rented the storage shed for her and you didn't have any of your own stuff in there. But at that point, she owed you $300, and you had already paid $138. You could have said, listen, go get your stuff, but I'm going to take you to small claims court and sue you for the $138. Instead, what you allowed to happen was you allowed all of her property to be gone.
I sold it to a friend of hers.
Your Honor.
And
Well, just a second. That's outrageous.
He paid for the storage unit.
Your Honor.
That's outrageous. Why didn't you just give it back to her?
Couldn't get in the storage unit unless I paid it.
In August?
Mm-hmm.
You had been paying in August, according to this bill that you gave me.
As of August 5th, it was late, and they wouldn't let us in.
She called you August 2nd.
She never showed up for the time that she agreed to meet us to get the stuff.
When did she agree to meet you? When?
I can't remember exactly what date it was.
Okay. What was the name of the friend who paid the storage unit?
His name
Wayne.
was Wayne.
You know that person?
Yes, I do.
Have you spoken to Wayne?
Yes, I have, but he's back in prison right now, and he did not buy the stuff.
All right. What stuff was in here?
20 years of my life, my personal stuff, I mean, everything. Michelle helped to get some of my pictures back and a few of my stuff back.
From Wayne?
Yes.
From Larissa.
She was seeing Wayne.
And Michelle's been over at Larissa's house. And
For the last 2 years, no.
Shh. Shh. Don't speak.
And Michelle told me that she's got stuff of some of my stuff in her house right now.
Like what?
She's got TVs, kitchen stuff.
No, I do not.
Pictures.
Were these things that were taken out of your apartment?
Yes.
What
She
kind
has
of
pictures.
televisions did you have?
I had a 46-inch Hitachi.
That was supposed to be in storage?
Yes.
It was. It was.
It was? And are you telling me that you sold Wayne the 47-inch Hitachi and he just paid the storage fees?
Yep.
No.
Don't believe you, my dear.
No.
You're a liar.
Everything
You're a
was in
liar.
there.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. What do you do for a living?
Daycare.
Somebody entrusts you with their children?
Yes.
What a mistake. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
About your stuff. The return of your stuff. The return of your stuff, Helen.
I thought she was a friend.
I didn't know her anything.
I find out later she intended to take my stuff all along.
I was just being a friend.
Friends don't do that to friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lambert versus Jones. Step forward, please.
Nurse's assistant Jerry Lambert is suing her former friends, Kevin and Rhonda Jones, for stealing her DVD collection. Kevin and Rhonda are countersuing for unpaid babysitting fees and damages to their car caused by Jerry's 7-year-old daughter.
Miss Lambert, you and your children needed a place to stay. You were having some difficulty, and the defendants, according to your complaint, took you into their home with your children. When you left, which I gather were not under favorable circumstances, Mr. and Mrs. Jones kept some of your DVDs.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what you're suing for the return of these DVDs. Mr. and Mrs. Jones acknowledge that they have the DVDs, but they say in their counterclaim that you owe them for some babysitting fees and some damage that your little girl did to one of their cars. How do you know them?
Well, they've been friends of mine for over the last few years.
How many is a few?
About 7.
And why did you need a place to stay?
Because I moved back from where I used to live in Independence, Kansas for my brothers and stayed over there at their house, and they said I can move in and stay with them until I found another place to live.
Did you call them and tell them that you wanted to move back to town?
They called me at my brother's house.
To say what?
That they wished that I would move back to town, and they missed seeing me and the kids.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you invited her to come to your home?
Yes.
That was very nice of them, right?
Right.
When did you arrive at their home?
The 28th of April,
And when did you leave their home?
the 19th of May.
Why?
Because I had gone to work and they had got mad at me because I switched babysitters from having Rhonda watch my kids to a different babysitter. And so they called my mom and dad and told them that they needed to come get my stuff because they were kicking me out.
And why did you switch babysitters?
Because my kids were getting yelled and screamed at their house. They weren't being able to go outside or nothing like that.
Now, you arrived there on April 28th. When did you start working?
About the following week after that.
So the first week in May.
Mm-hmm.
So you were working about 2.5 weeks.
Uh-huh.
That's the babysitting that you are requesting?
Yes.
Did you have an arrangement with her with regard to babysitting fees?
Yes, I did.
And what was that arrangement?
That she would watch my kids while I was at work.
And how much were you supposed to pay her?
She never told me.
Did you ask her?
No, I didn't.
Did you think you had to pay her something?
Yeah.
Well, how much were you planning on paying her?
It just depends on how much she was charging me.
How much are you paying the current babysitter for watching your children?
It just depends on how much she asked me for, because she's a friend of the family's.
Well, how much did she ask you for last week?
Last week I gave her $70.
And the week before?
I get paid every 2 weeks, so
2 weeks before that, how much did you give her?
$70.
So you give her $70 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What are your hours of work?
Anywhere from 2 in the afternoon till 10 at night.
So when somebody babysits for your children, they really are feeding them and putting them to bed, doing their homework with them. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what arrangement did you have with Miss Lampert with regard to payment for babysitting?
Oh, I was charging her $1 an hour per kid.
Is that what you arranged with her, is my question, not what you were charging. So be very careful what you say to me, Miss Jones. Very careful.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jerry Lambert says former friends Kevin and Rhonda Jones won't return her DVD collection. Kevin and Rhonda claim Jerry's 7-year-old daughter vandalized their van.
Did you have an agreement with her to be paid $1 an hour per child?
Yes.
When did you make that agreement with her?
When she got a job and started work.
And when was that?
It was around, I started watching, it was in May, around the 4th or 5th.
You watched the children for 2 weeks.
Right.
And how much do you say she owes you for the 2 weeks?
It was $134.
$134.
Right.
Okay. That's most reasonable. Did she give you any other money while she lived there?
She just gave us money for the utility bills.
She did. How much
Yes.
money did she give you?
The $150 for that month.
And what about food? Did she purchase her own food?
She was there for 2 weeks before she bought any food.
Okay. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's get to the damage. When do you allege that Miss Lambert's daughter, I assume this little girl over here, damaged your property?
We were sitting inside her uncle and aunt's house, and my daughter was outside playing with them, and she come to make it to our attention that the child over here was...
Well, you didn't see it.
Right.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Ashley.
Ashley, tell me about what happened.
I was outside playing and I went around the garage and I come back because I was trying to find a basketball. And I come over to Nixie and I looked over and I seen Jesselyn scratching on the side of the van with a rock. And I went in and ran to my mom and dad and found her and told them.
Did you tell her to stop?
Yes.
Did she stop?
No. Me and Nixie tried to get her off of the van, but she wouldn't listen. She said it was a chalkboard.
How old are you?
No.
How old are you?
7.
7. When did you tell the plaintiff about it?
She was present at the time that she come in and made it aware to all of us at the same time.
Remember that, Miss Lambert?
Yes, I do.
Did you talk to your little girl about it?
Yes, I did.
What did she say?
That she wasn't going to throw rocks at the vehicle again.
That she wouldn't do it again?
Mm-hmm.
So there really isn't a question that you're responsible for the damage to the truck, right?
Well, my daughter says she didn't throw rocks at their truck.
Can I see a picture of the truck, please? The only reason I ask you these questions is because you understand that if damage to your truck took place at a time when you were babysitting, that would have been your responsibility, even though it was her child, because you were supposed to be supervising her little girl. But if this didn't happen on your watch, but it happened on her mother's watch, it's her mother's problem. Mother has to pay for it. Oh, some nasty scratches. You have an estimate how much it's going to cost to polish
right
those
here
or
we
buff
have an
them out?
estimate.
Have you had the car fixed?
No.
Okay. You're not friends anymore, I assume.
No.
Why not?
I just don't want to be friends with people like them anymore.
They sounded like very nice people to me.
Well, you don't know them as quite as well as I do.
Well, they were really nice people. They invited you to come home and live with them. They said you could stay with them until you got on your feet. They opened their home to you. They provided you and your 3 children with food. Sounds to me like they're very nice people. In any event, you owe her $134 for babysitting, and I'm awarding them an additional $800 to have the car painted for a total of $934. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim. The plaintiff gets her DVDs back.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, you may step out. This is case number 211 on the calendar in the matter of Snow versus Dean. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Snow, you, according to your papers, were having an affair with Mr. Dean prior to and during the separation that he had with his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Mr. Dean, in order to ensure that his wife wouldn't get her hands on some of his property, had you take out a storage unit in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
Where he put his property. And you want him to pay all the storage fees that you paid on that unit.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Dean says the storage unit was supposed to be in both your names, that he told you within a couple of months that he was reconciling with his wife, that he wanted his stuff back, that you refused to let him take his stuff back, and you allowed the fees to build up on this storage unit. He acknowledges he owes you about $100, and he is counterclaiming for all of his stuff. When did you separate from your wife, Mr. Dean? Give me the month and the year. Shh. Let me finish the question. Month and year.
February 2004.
Beginning, middle, or end of February?
Beginning.
And when did you move your stuff out of the house?
Before the 15th of February.
And is that when you asked Miss Snow to make arrangements for a storage unit?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when did you reconcile with your wife?
In March.
Beginning, middle, or end?
In the middle.
We're still working on that, Your Honor. We have not gotten back together.
When in March did you tell Miss Snow that you wanted your property?
Actually, she found out that I was talking to my wife, and that's when she went ballistic.
Do you remember when that was?
It was around the middle, towards the end.
And how much was the storage unit?
It was $141 a month, and it went to $145.
Well, if you went ballistic and you stopped seeing him in March, why did you keep paying on the storage unit?
I paid, the first payment was done the 7th of February. The second payment was done around the 11th of March. That's when I stopped payment, when I found out he was with his wife.
Fine. So that's 2 payments of $141.
Right, I have the receipt.
That's $282. Why are you suing him for $1,000?
Plus, there is another outstanding of $577 that's owed on the storage unit now.
Why didn't, well, I understand that. Why didn't you allow him to get his stuff in March?
Because I went to him to get his stuff. I went to his father to pay me the money that he owed me, plus I went to his sister, and they all promised to give me the money.
When?
Around the end of March, before the next payment was due.
When did Mr. Dean call you and ask you for his property?
He never did call me.
Go ahead.
I had talked to him prior. My father had offered to pay her the money. My sister had offered to pay her the money. My wife had offered to pay her the money.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I offered. She didn't want it because she was being vengeful.
She was angry because
yes,
she went ballistic.
Yes,
so she
ma'am.
found out you were talking to your
that
wife.
That was the whole case, yes.
Does that sound right, Miss Snow?
No, ma'am.
Well, he certainly owes you $282. He doesn't owe you any more. Where's his property?
It's in a storage unit.
Your Honor, the storage unit is being auctioned. She has the only keys to the storage unit. I offered to ask her to sign it over to me. I take over the payments.
When?
I would say we met the beginning of March, and I told her that I would take over the payments. She signed everything over to me. She said I was welcome to pay on it, but she was not signing it over to me, give me any keys, that she was keeping everything in her name until she got things worked out with Charles.
I went to both of them and said, when she came to me about the storage unit, she did not offer to pay me the money that was owed to me. She wanted me to give her the belongings without giving me the money that was owed to me. They could have had the keys. I don't want the stuff. It was appraised at $400 from the people in the storage unit.
So why don't you give them the keys?
They haven't given me my money.
Where are the keys?
Right here.
Give it to them.
Okay.
Good. There are the keys.
Ma'am, but the stuff is probably auctioned off by now.
Well, I don't know whether it is or whether it isn't.
Yes, ma'am.
You owe her $282.
Yes, ma'am.
And I find that you owe her $282 and not the $1,000 that she's asking
Yes,
for,
ma'am.
because I believe that after you and your wife started to talk again and you were reconciled, Miss Snow got angry. And she wasn't cooperative about you getting your stuff back. So if you let that stuff remain in storage, knowing full well that eventually they were going to auction it off, that's not right, Miss Snow. If, in fact, your stuff has been auctioned,
According to...
listen to me. Listen to me. I don't know whether it has or whether it has not, and neither do you. So I'm going to allow you to withdraw without prejudice your counterclaim. If, in fact, your items were sold, you have a claim against her for maliciously withholding your property. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $282, and I'm allowing you to withdraw your counterclaim. If, in fact, your items were sold, you can sue her for the full value of the items that you have receipts for.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I believe that she's upset because I broke the relationship off.
I am also married myself, and I wanted to make my marriage work.
We're still not together because I still believe that they're still having contact, regardless of what either one of them say.
I have not had any contact whatsoever.
My opinion is it's not going to end. It's going to continue.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Robinson versus Gorman. Step forward, please.
Plaintiff Anna Robinson is suing her former friend, water well driller Paul Gorman, for the return of a 1989 Chevy Blazer. Anna says Paul took possession when she went to prison for operating a meth lab.
Ms. Robinson, according to what I gather from your complaint, Mr. Gorman was a long-time friend of yours.
Yes.
And a trusted friend. And there was a period of time when you became incarcerated. You were incarcerated on more than one occasion. While you were incarcerated, you gave Mr. Gorman power of attorney to handle certain of your affairs, cash your checks, etc. During your second period of incarceration, it is your claim that Mr. Gorman appropriated a truck that belonged to you by misusing the power of attorney. You want the truck back, or the value of the truck. Mr. Gorman says there is a very good reason why you can't have the truck back, and that's because he invested a substantial amount of money in the truck, including money to get it out of impound, where it was when you went to prison. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the first time you were incarcerated, Miss Robinson, when you gave Mr. Gorman the power of attorney?
98.
For what?
I was incarcerated for drugs.
And how long were you incarcerated?
16 months, I believe.
And when was the next time you were incarcerated?
July 12th of 2002.
And how long were you incarcerated?
For 3 years.
And that was for drugs also?
Yes.
When you were incarcerated in July of 2002, you had a truck?
Yes, ma'am.
What year truck did you have?
1989 Chevy Blazer.
And where was the truck when you were incarcerated?
I was driving the truck and it went to impound.
You were driving the truck at the time of your arrest?
Yes.
Were you transporting drugs in the truck at the time of your arrest?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why were they so nice to you?
We've been best friends for years. We've always helped each other out.
So why would you think that they would do something that's so sinister, according to you, stealing your property?
And later today,
about 8 months in the relationship, Mrs. Frilling told me she had feelings for another female. I called her and I told her if she don't come get her belongings, I'm gonna throw them out.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Anna Robinson says when she went to jail, former friend Paul Gorman took possession of her Chevy Blazer. Anna says Paul refuses to return the vehicle.
Did you ask him to get the truck out of impound?
Yes. I said if he got the truck out of impound, they can drive it for the duration of my sentence.
Is that the conversation that you had with her?
No.
You tell me your version of the conversation that you had with her.
She basically asked if we can get it out and stuff, and we didn't have the money ourselves. And then time, lapsed on. Then we finally got a notice. They gave us 1 week to impound. They're going to sell it. And then she said, if you guys can get it out, because I'm going to be gone for probably permanently, you guys can have it. And she mentioned to the neighbor, and she goes, well, I'll lend you the money if you pay me back, and I hold the title. I said, sure. So I have a notarized statement from her saying this is what happened.
Miss Robinson, what would have happened to the truck if Mr. Gorman didn't?
Well, it would have been lost.
So what difference does it make to you if he went and got the truck out?
Because it was my truck. I mean, he got it out for me.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying he called you and said they're going to sell the truck. I just got a notice. And he said what you said to him was, well, if you can get it out, it's yours.
I wrote him and them and asked him about the truck and various other things. How are you doing? What's up with the truck?
Well, do you have any letter from them indicating that they're taking care of the truck for you?
Nothing. They never wrote me back till the day before I got out of prison.
And then did they write you back?
They wrote me back and said, here's your address and here's our cell phone number.
What does that mean? Here's your address, here's your cell phone?
Because I wasn't sure where I was going to parole to. They were supposed to have moved within that 2-year period.
We were
and they never did end up moving.
Our address.
Just a second. Why were they so... Shh, Miss Robinson, why were they so nice to you?
We've been best friends for years. We've always helped each other out.
So why would you think that they would do something that's so sinister, according to you, stealing your property?
That's why I was blown away. I couldn't believe they would do this to me.
Well, I don't want you to stop getting blown away, because I have to make a decision as to whether or not I believe him when he says...
He didn't...
Shh, I'm speaking.
Sorry.
Whether I believe him when he says that you said to him, listen, do what you have to do. The truck's gone anyway. I can't get the truck out. If you have to borrow money from somebody, borrow money from somebody. He even says that he was prepared to give you the truck if you wanted it. When you got out, all you had to do was pay him the money that it cost him to get the truck out of impound, plus what he put into the truck. Didn't you say that to her?
Half, I'll sell for half of what I put into it. I'll cut that in half since I've used it.
And what did she say to you?
Basically, at first, she said yes. And then the next thing I know, a couple of days, she moved out, and I haven't spoken to her since.
The day I moved out was the day he told me I couldn't have my truck back. The very next day, I went to the DMV so I could do this legally to get my truck back. And they had already told me that the previous year, they took the title out of my name. A year after I was arrested.
I'm not talking about title back in your name. He said to you, give me the money that I...
And I agreed to that right from the day one.
Did you give it to him?
No, I didn't have the money at the time. I was just out of prison. I wasn't a week out of prison.
Well, then you wanted your truck back without giving him any money.
I never demanded the truck that day. I told them they could keep using the truck because I realized they had work to do. They had to use their truck.
I suggest that you get a job, make some more money. The 1989 truck that he got out of impound is his. He paid for it. You would have lost it anyway. These were people that were very nice to you. No good deed goes unpunished. Do you understand?
Oh, yes.
The friendship is over?
Yes, I guess. I tried. My only was trying not to lose it.
Well, that's unfortunate. Anyway, your lawsuit's dismissed, Miss Robinson. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I bent over backwards, I think, every way I could, you know.
That's all I had left when I got out, and they knew that.
I even offered to just give back, knowing I probably never received the money.
It's more upsetting that I've lost 2 good friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Freeling versus Reed. Step forward, please.
19-year-old cashier Erin Freeling is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old landscaper Philip Reed, for disposing of all her belongings and for damaging their apartment. Philip is countersuing, claiming Erin stole his cat.
Miss Freeling, you and Mr. Reed used to live together as boyfriend and girlfriend. You lived in an apartment, is that right?
That's correct.
At some point you had an argument, you left, and you claimed that Mr. Reed disposed of some of your property. And in addition, he damaged the apartment so that you didn't get whatever security deposit back you were supposed to. Mr. Reed says that he didn't cause any more than normal wear and tear in the apartment, and he was forced to dispose of your property because he would abandon the property there, and he had to get the property out because the lease was over. Is that right, sir?
Yes, correct.
Okay. When did you move in together, Miss Freeling?
We had moved in together September of '03.
When did you leave?
July of '04.
Why did you leave?
He got too controlling, started being violent, so I decided to leave, and I had returned a week later to get some personal belongings and my cat. When I returned to get my cat, he had started pushing me back into the apartment. And at that point, I had my mom call 911, and we had the police come over, and they had to take him aside so I could get my personal belongings out of the apartment and my cat. I couldn't get that much stuff that day.
Why not?
Because I had a small car, and I was afraid to return to the apartment because he got very violent when I did go, and I didn't feel that I should have to call the cops every time I want to come over to my apartment.
Erin Freeling says when she broke up with Philip Reed, he threw all her belongings in a dumpster. She also says he purposely damaged their shared apartment.
Go ahead.
When I come back in September of '04, he had left my clothes on the middle of the floor, wet with urine. But I have videotape of all the damages or the stuff that he thrown in the dumpsters.
Approximately, we lived together for a year and a half. We had a loving, caring relationship. About 8 months in the relationship, Mrs. Freeling told me she had feelings for another female, and she left the premises. I didn't hear from her. I called her and I told her if she don't come get her belongings, I'm going to throw them out. She took my cat that my grandmother got for me last Christmas.
Don't interrupt him. Who took care of it?
I did, because she wasn't there most of the time.
Step up. What's your last name?
Reed, Audrey.
Miss Reed, you bought the cat last Christmas?
Yes, I gave it to him as a present.
Miss Freeling, where'd you get the cat from?
I got the cat for Christmas from Philip, and I took care of the cat. I have vet bills.
Can I see the vet bill, please?
This is even his health checkup. Here's his rabies tag. The cat stuff is mailed to my mom's house because she paid for it.
Who took the cat to the vet, Mr. Reed?
Mom did. Erin's mother did.
No, Erin and her mother.
Along with me.
Erin and her mother.
Correct.
Right, from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Thank you. You may sit down, Miss Reed. Now, what stuff do you claim he disposed of that belongs to you?
When I had returned to the apartment, I found everything gone. This is a list of just the main stuff that I found that was gone.
Why didn't you come before? I don't buy the story that you didn't go before because you were afraid of him because he was violent. You could have gone with the police again. You went with them once. You could have gone with them again and gotten your stuff. Why didn't you go back?
Because I didn't have a vehicle that I could move the dresser.
That's baloney.
Because I didn't feel that I should have to get the law involved to get belongings back.
Well, then that's tough. I'm not dealing with something like a sugar dispenser, $3. Salt and pepper shakers, $5. Small cat bowls, $3. The only thing I have to make a decision today about, really, is the cat and whose cat it is. And Mr. Reed, get over the cat. She took the cat with her. She left a lot of other property behind, but she made sure she took the cat. Where's the cat now?
He's at my house.
All right. And the rest of the stuff that was disposed of, you deal with it. Now, you say that he damaged some property.
We had gotten into an argument. I locked myself in the bathroom. He had damaged the door. When I went back to the apartment, I found tomatoes on the wall.
Do you have a bill from the landlord charging you for cleanup?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. Who paid the security deposit?
I paid the security deposit.
That was billed to both of us.
Now I'll see the video.
This is what we found dumpster diving. Here's where he threw most of his stuff. Notice, huh? Pretty good, huh?
There's tomato stains on the carpet.
On the carpet. This is the doorknob that he broke trying to get into the bathroom when I locked myself in the bathroom.
She says she locked herself in the bathroom when you knocked the door. Is that true?
No, I'm not a violent person.
Your Honor,
in any event, that was in January, and you lived with him until July. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And another thing is, she came a week before the lease was even up. Like a week. How come she couldn't confront me and say, hey, I'll pay half of it? Like a couple...
I have no idea. Listen, I'm not
Okay.
Dear Abby.
All right.
I mean, the whole thing is very irritating.
Yeah.
You know, two children playing house, and then things go wrong, and then you annoy the courts by asking them to get involved in who belongs to two placemats and a salt and pepper shaker. If you can't play house like adults, don't play house. Half of $490 is $245, which is left due and owing by each of you to the landlord. The apartment wasn't left in such bad condition. I'm speaking. The apartment wasn't left in such bad condition. The cat belongs to you. Get a judgment for $245. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 535 on the calendar in the matter of Hawkins versus Barker. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Do you see that water jug, Bird?
Yep.
You have one of those?
Yeah.
Did you ever?
Yeah.
Did you ever put coins in it?
Yep.
Must be a guy thing. My husband's been collecting that stuff. You collect that stuff. You collect that stuff. Do you collect coins in that? I don't know any women who collect coins in that thing.
Neither do I.
You know, they put bills in a bank. They put bills in a bank. Okay. Mr. Hawkins, this is the theory of your case. Mrs. Barker is your landlord.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had some trouble with a window in your house, in your apartment. You called her, and she said, well, my son will come over and take care of it.
Yes.
In order for him to do that at some point, you had to leave the alarm off, which you did do.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you came home, this jar that had been, a jar similar to this one, that had been filled with coins that you were collecting over the years that had thousands of dollars in it, was gone.
Yes, ma'am.
And you believe that Mrs. Barker and or her son is responsible for your missing property.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been living in your current apartment, sir?
10 years.
You live alone?
Yes, at one point, yes. I mean, yes, I do.
Have you always lived alone?
No, ma'am.
Who else did you live with?
My son stayed with me for a couple years.
Until when?
Until sometime early August.
And what happened at that time?
Well, he wasn't following directions, and he had reached 18. And
So you kicked him out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Since August, has he been back to the house?
No, ma'am.
When did this incident happen with your money jar?
August 26th, ma'am, of 2004.
And what date in August did your son leave?
It was sometime around the beginning, like maybe about the 5th or the 6th, somewhere in there.
When he left on the 5th of August, did you change the locks?
No, ma'am.
You found a broken window. On what date?
August 20th.
Is that the date you notified Miss Barker?
Yes, ma'am.
What date were you told by Mrs. Barker's son that he would fix it?
He came over on August 20th. He said that he was leaving town and he wouldn't be back until Sunday, so he couldn't do anything about it.
Okay. So what did you do?
Well, I said, okay. I was actually leaving town also.
Now, you came back when?
I came back on the 22nd, that Sunday.
Your money jar was still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you keep it?
I kept it in a corner. It's like a corner in my living room.
When did you find it was missing?
On August 26th, when I arrived home from work.
When did Mr. Williams fix your window?
He fixed it on August 26th.
Stand up next to your mother, please. Is that correct, Mr. Williams?
Yes, that is correct.
When you got to his house on August 26th, you had told him to leave the alarm off because you had to get in to fix the window.
That's correct, yes.
And you went in on the 26th. Approximately what time?
I'd say late morning, between, I'd say 10 and 12. My recollection's a little blurry at the moment.
Tell me what happened when you went in to the apartment.
The night before, I went by the unit, because I live in the same complex 3 doors down, at which time I took duct tape, and I duct taped it from the outside only, because I didn't have clearance to get into the unit. So I pulled the screen off, and I put duct tape on it and secured it until the next morning, because I didn't want to pull it out then and leave it overnight, and that would be very unsafe. So the next morning when I came back, late morning, on the 26th, I observed the tape off the window, and the bottom portion of the glass was laying on the deck in front of the window, with the tape gone and the screen back on the window. And so when I approached the door to open it, I was puzzled initially, and so I opened the door, and I recollect that the deadbolt was not locked, just the bottom lock, and I, entered the unit, and I was in there for 8 to 10 minutes, took the window out, took it to the glass shop. They told me it'd be about, 2 to 3 hours it would take, and come back later. And before I left, I secured the window back up by drawing the blinds, putting the screen back on, and exiting the unit and leaving it the way as if when I entered it, with just the bottom lock locked.
Okay. You don't know anything about his money jar?
Never saw. Like I said, I was in there for 8 minutes. As long as it took me to walk in the door, assess it, pull the window out, put the screen back in, lock the place up, and take it to the shop.
Do you have any criminal record, Mr. Williams?
No, I don't.
That was a tenuous no, I don't.
Well, I do, actually. But I believe that's irrelevant.
I had assumed that you didn't.
Right.
I had assumed that you didn't, but now that you tell me that you did, do you have a conviction for anything?
I don't recall what my conviction was. It was years ago, but I don't think that's irrelevant. 6, 7 years ago.
How old are you now?
33.
Since then, nothing?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, that's an honest answer.
Right.
Good. Now, Mr. Hawkins, you're going to have to explain to me what proof you have that Mr. Williams and/or his mother, who was the manager of the property, should be responsible for the loss of your money jar.
Like I said, he told me to turn off the alarm. The other thing is...
well, he had to turn off the alarm or give him the code.
Yes.
Because otherwise he couldn't get into your unit.
Exactly.
You could have stayed home from work.
Yes.
And said, I'm not turning off the alarm, I'm going to stay home from work, and I'll let you in.
Well, on Monday and Tuesday, when I was home, because he actually told me on Monday that he was coming to fix the window, and I didn't hear anything from him. So I went to work, and he called me on my cell phone at work on Wednesday.
So you spoke to him?
Yes.
You could have said, I'm not going to be home. Wait until next Monday. I'll take the day off, and you can come and fix the window. You didn't have to turn the alarm off.
No, you're right.
Who was this?
This is my witness, Jim. We had to move the sparkless bottle because he cleans carpets, and just saying that it had to take a big person to actually move that.
I believe it had to take a big person. So he's your friend?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have other friends in the building?
No, ma'am. He doesn't live in my building.
Do you have any friends in the building after 10 years?
No.
None. You have no friends at all?
Yes, I have friends. Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The most remote thing in my mind would be that I would ask one of my children if they came in and took my property. That wouldn't even enter my mind, sir.
And later today...
Started with my wife's car. Her car caught on fire, which then involved the house.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian Hawkins says his landlord, Debbie Barker, owes for a water jug full of money that was stolen from his apartment. Debbie says Brian should talk to his son.
Now let's get to your son. Your son left at around the same time. Did you ask your son about your money jar?
Yes, I did.
Why would you ask your son about your money jar?
Because I don't have any enemies or anything. So I went to his mom's house where he was staying.
When did you go to his mom's house?
I went on Saturday. Well, I called him on Friday, on the day that it happened.
And he said?
He said no, and he wouldn't do anything like that.
But you thought he might?
I just felt that, there was tension between me and my son when he left, but...
And you knew that he knew it was there?
Yes.
And it's possible that it was your son?
It's possible.
It's possible it was Mr. Williams?
Yeah, it's possible.
But Mr. Williams would really have to be pretty stupid to steal your money, knowing that he lives in the complex and knowing that you know that he was going to be in your apartment that day.
Yes, ma'am.
So he'd have to be a fool. He doesn't strike me as being a fool. Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to suggest to you that you got to keep your money in a bank. And if you have $3,000 worth of coins, keeping them in your apartment is not a very smart thing to do. Now, I assume you reported this matter to the police.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you reported the matter to the police, you indicated that the perpetrator of this crime was unknown to you.
Yes.
It's unknown to me as well. So what you're suggesting is that I hold the defendants responsible because they were in some way negligent.
Yes.
But I don't find that they were negligent, sir. I think that you had certain options, and one of your options was that you could have said, I will be home. We will fix a time when you can come in and fix the window, but I'm not turning the alarm off for several hours because you're not going to be here for a period of time when the alarm is off because you've got to take the window to have it fixed.
But isn't it as a manager or, you take some responsibility because, when you enter someone's apartment, you're liable for, any wrongdoing?
He's not liable for someone else's wrongdoing, sir. He's not, Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Williams nor his mother are responsible if your son stole your money jar.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Right.
But
and we don't know whether that's true or not, whether it was your son, maybe it was your son and some of his friends, maybe it was some of your son's friends. You don't know that.
Can I say an interesting fact? When he returned home later that evening, he was upset, and he asked me how come I didn't deadbolt the lock. And it was really puzzling to me because I told him the policy usually with a manager is usually when you enter a unit, you leave it the same way when you exit. So when I entered the unit, that deadbolt was not locked. And he said, oh, I always deadbolted. And I said, Brian, the deadbolt was not locked. And that's the reason why I didn't deadbolt it when I exited after completion of the job. And he furthermore asked me if I played his Nintendo game. And he said, yeah, the Nintendo game was out, the remotes were out, it was left on, there was a game in it.
Is that right, sir?
No, it was actually pulled out of the, I have an entertainment stand, and it was actually pulled out with some other items.
So you mean the person who came in that stole your money jar also played your Nintendo?
Well, they were intending to take it.
Either they were intending to take it or they were playing with it. Was there a game in it?
No, there wasn't no game in it.
He told me there was a game in it that wasn't in it prior. And I remember specifically him saying that the remotes were out and the power on the unit was on.
Is that right, sir?
It off.
The power was on because they pulled it out. They pulled it out. That and some other things were packed up right in front of the Nintendo.
You mean some other things that somebody was trying to burglarize?
Well, it was my PlayStation, some games, and some DVDs.
Mr. Williams certainly had more than enough time if he wanted to take that property in order to do it, right?
I guess that they forgot it.
No. No. I would look elsewhere, Mr. Hawkins. I don't think these people are responsible for your loss at all.
May I make a comment? When Brian initially made the phone call to me to let me know that the window was broken, I questioned how it got broken.
No, ma'am.
And he informed me he thought it was his son trying to break in.
No, ma'am. No,
that
I
his
didn't.
son had tried several times in the past.
No, ma'am.
And I said, well, gee, Brian, if you or your son broke the window, I'm not responsible to repair it. That's something that you need to repair. And then he changed his whole story that he wasn't sure if it was his son or not.
No, ma'am. That's not true.
Well,
That's
some
not
of your
true.
conduct, Mr. Hawkins, afterwards suggests that she may be telling the truth because certainly if my house was burglarized, I would not call one of my children to find out if they were the perpetrators.
No,
Listen to me very carefully. If my house was missing items and it was clear that my house was the subject of a burglary, the most remote thing in my mind would be that I would ask one of my children if they came in and took my property. That wouldn't even enter my mind, sir, but it entered your mind.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian Hawkins says his landlord, Debbie Barker, owes for a water jug full of money that was stolen from his apartment. Debbie says Brian should talk to his son.
Now, you not only called your son, according to you, you went to his mother's house?
Yes, ma'am.
To look for the property? I wouldn't think, would not dawn on me that that's the place that I would look.
That was...
So you thought about it. So what Miss Barker says when she says to me that you thought your son may have tried to get into the house is supported by what you did after you found your house burglarized.
No, ma'am.
Well, it is, sir.
That's
what I find, sir. They are not responsible. Look elsewhere. Your case is dismissed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I was taken aback because, you know, prior to this, there was a friendship, kind of, you know, neighborly friendship.
I really don't have our friend. She's been a nice owner,
And I was taken aback by it.
her son, you know, I hope that they didn't take it personal.
Brian's been there. I've owned the building for 8 years, and he's been a great tenant. And he had some problems with his son. You know, sometimes we all have problems with our children.
I just hope that things can remain the way that they were, because they have been good people to me.
Judge Judy is the best. She's very fair.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Clark versus Beaver. Step forward, please.
Registered nurse Lori Clark is suing the father of her son's bandmate, communications consultant David Beaver, for the cost of musical equipment. Lori says her son's equipment was damaged in a fire at David's home.
Mrs. Clark, your son and the defendant's son are in a band together. Your son had some music equipment that he had brought over to Mr. Beaver's home. Mr. Beaver's home was destroyed by fire. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I don't think it was an intentional fire.
No.
It was an accident. And according to you, your son's music equipment was destroyed. And you want Mr. Beaver to pay for that. Step up, sir. Tell me your name.
Zachary Clark.
Zachary, when did you bring this music equipment to the Beaver home?
Right when we started.
Give me a month.
November, maybe, I don't know.
Okay. Let's say November. And who did you speak to before you brought it over there?
Ben.
Who's that?
His son.
How old are you?
20.
Is Ben the person that you're in the band with?
Yeah.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with Ben. Step up, Ben. Tell me about the conversation.
He answered a thing I put up at a Guitar Center for looking for a drummer. And we just talked, and I brought my stuff over. We were just interested in playing music together.
Where was your music equipment stored?
In Ben's room, which is like the basement, the whole lower level.
When for the first time did you meet Mr. Beaver?
The first day I went over there, I think, yeah.
Did you ever have a conversation with him about your music equipment? Before the fire?
Before it?
Before it?
No.
What makes you think, Miss Clark, that an accidental fire renders Mr. Beaver liable for this music equipment?
I claimed it on my insurance company, and they denied the request to cover the equipment.
So? What makes you think that he's responsible?
Because that's where the equipment was at the time of the fire, was in the basement of his home.
So?
The equipment is damaged. There's smoke damage, extensive smoke damage.
So?
And I was under the impression that he could claim the damage on his insurance company.
Well, maybe he could, but what makes you think that if he didn't, that he would be liable for the damaged equipment? It was not stored there with his permission. He certainly did not assume any liability to act in any more than a reasonable and prudent manner with regard to it, not to do anything to actively damage it or to prevent it from being damaged from some other force, not leaving it under an open window to let it be hit by the elements. Just reasonable precaution. But this is a fire. This is an accident. Why would he be liable for this equipment?
I guess I thought because the equipment was on his property that both of us would claim the equipment to our insurance.
Well, let's say your car is parked in a parking lot, outside parking lot, and from overhead, a plane emanates some stuff, piece of metal, falls down. You don't know where the plane is, you don't know who the owner of the plane is, what company it is, but the thing comes down and destroys your car. Who's responsible? The owner of the parking lot?
Possibly myself, or...
Not the owner of the parking lot, just because the car happens to be sitting in a parking lot. The Beaver is responsible for certain things. If he knew that the equipment was there, if he knew that the equipment was there under these circumstances, then he's responsible to exercise ordinary, prudent care to see that nothing happens to it. How did this fire start, Mr. Beaver?
It started with my wife's car. We have a tuck-under garage. Her car caught on fire, which then involved the house from there. So about a third of the house was damaged by the fire, and the rest was all smoke damage.
Did you question your insurance company with regard to this young man's equipment?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
And?
The fact that we did not own the equipment, we technically could not claim it on our coverage, and we did not.
So he could not claim it on his insurance, so you want him to pay for the damaged equipment out of his own pocket. I don't think he's liable. It's unfortunate, But I don't think he's liable. Is the equipment usable?
It still is, it works, but they told us not to use it from the Savage Audio. Mr. Beaver brought it in and had it checked out, and it says that smoke damage exceeds the value.
Well, are you working after school?
Do I work? No.
Maybe you better get a job so you can buy some new equipment. Right?
Yep.
Good idea. Case dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 489 on the calendar in the matter of Goodwin versus Kyle. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Goodwin, Miss Kyle was the resident manager in the apartment complex where you used to live.
Correct.
And you're suing her for thousands of dollars because you say she ignored a medical condition that you had, placing your life at risk, both yours and your daughter's.
Correct.
And you want your pain and suffering that she caused you, some medical bills. In addition, you want a security deposit of $1,000 that she hadn't returned to you.
Correct.
And Miss Kyle says she owes you absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, you lived there the last month without paying rent, and that's what your security deposit went for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now let's get to the medical condition first, because I find that quite interesting. I gather there is a gate.
Correct.
In your former complex where you lived, and that when you moved in, you were told that in order to get in and out of the gate, you needed a clicker, like a remote, and it was $25.
Yeah, but at the time, I did not own a...
Don't get ahead of me, please. Okay. I'll let you fill in the blanks. Okay. I'm sort of setting this out so that Bert doesn't get bored.
Okay.
So you opted not to get a clicker because you didn't have a car.
No, I had a remote control, but it wasn't one that I purchased from her. At the time, I did not own a car, so there was no reason for me to have a remote control to the gate. But the only reason why I got
it... listen to me. You didn't buy a remote control from her for $25.
Correct.
When did you move in?
I moved in April.
April of what
2004.
All right. And you lived there with your daughter?
My daughter and my son.
Then, in October of 2004, your daughter had a seizure.
Correct.
And paramedics came, and fire department, and everybody else, and they can get in to the complex, but because you didn't have a clicker, they couldn't get out. At least the ambulance couldn't get out. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Correct.
So you were angry because your daughter was stuck in the ambulance or whatever, and you went to her the next day, I assume, and
yes,
said what? And said what?
I was very upset. I approached Miss Linda Kyle and informed her that around 4 o'clock that morning, the paramedics came and picked up my daughter because she had a seizure. And the fire truck came and opened up the gate. After the fire truck left, then the paramedics were there. When the paramedics got ready to leave out of the gate, there was no way for them to, when they went around the apartments is only
Ms.
one.
Goodwin, we're not creating a novel here. This is a novella, small. The ambulance couldn't get out.
No, they couldn't.
So you went and complained the next day?
Yes, I did.
And what did Miss Kyle say to you?
She did nothing.
Your daughter suffers from seizures?
That was the first seizure that I've ever had my daughter have.
Well, after you had that first experience, you know what I would have done?
No.
I would have bought a clicker.
Okay.
You chose not to do that. And then a month later, you had an asthma attack.
Correct.
And you still didn't have a clicker.
Exactly, but that has nothing to do with the paramedics. The paramedics should be able to get out of that gate at all times. The only one that has a code is the fire truck. Once the fire truck leaves, there's nothing that the paramedics can do. The night that I had that asthma attack, there was no way for them. They saved my life. I was hospitalized for 3 days because of that. And the first time, she did nothing.
What I don't understand is why you didn't buy a clicker.
Why I didn't? Because I didn't have a car. There was no need for me. After someone stole it inside the apartment.
Listen to me. There was a need because a month before, your daughter had a serious incident, according to you. And had you had a clicker at that point, you would have gone out in the ambulance with your daughter, gone like this, and the gate would have gone up.
Well, at the time, when a 2-year-old is sitting there having a seizure, that remote control does not mean anything to me. That is my 2-year-old daughter. That's the only daughter that I have. That remote control.
I want to tell you something. You're not making sense to me. You're not making sense to me.
The remote control, okay, the remote control is a big thing to me, okay? It is. But when it comes to the fire truck and the paramedics, that has nothing to do with me having a remote control to the gate. That has nothing to do with it at all, period. I could have lost my life in that paramedics. That's why I'm so upset.
Listen to me, madam. What I don't understand is your daughter had a seizure in October. The paramedics had a problem getting out of your gate. Now you know that your daughter is subject to seizures. I would have said to myself, I have a 2-year-old child. I'm not going to be put in a situation where this can ever happen to me again. Here's $25, give me a clicker. I'm going to keep it in my house in case I ever have that kind of problem again. That's the way you protect your child. Why would you blame that on somebody else?
Well, it's a lot when it comes to Miss Linda.
Now, we're not talking about Miss Linda. I'm talking about you being a responsible parent.
Yes,
you now have
I'm
a
very
child that you
responsible when it
know
comes
is
to my
subject to seizures, who may in the future have that kind of an emergency. And just as you would go and get the medicine for your child that the doctor gave you, you would want to ensure that if an ambulance had to be called again, you would be able to get the ambulance in and out. I mean, if you disapprove of the way this apartment complex is run, you have a choice. You can move.
Correct.
That's your choice. But to stay there after your 2-year-old has had a seizure without the ability to get her out in case of an emergency is very, very irresponsible.
Well, I thought she was going to fix the problem after I approached her with it.
What made you think that?
Because she's the manager of the apartments. And
no,
you
what
would
did
think...
she say to you that led you to believe that she was going to fix it?
She told me they had a code to the gate. They don't have a code to that gate because we sat out there for 30 minutes. When I had my asthma attack, they went knocking on people's doors at 4 o'clock in the morning to get me
Just
out.
a second. Let me ask you a question. They were knocking on people's doors, the paramedics?
Correct.
What did they want when they were knocking on people's doors?
They wanted to get out of the gate.
They wanted a...
remote control to get out of the gate.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Are you living someplace now that you like?
Yes, me and my kids are very happy.
Does it have a gate?
Yes, it does. And as a matter of fact, the people can get in and out of the gate.
Perfect. Then you're in a place where you're happy.
And later today,
the numbers came up. I won. I was amazed.
I seen it on the ground, and I picked it up, and I did cash it.
Once you found out that it was his lottery ticket, you shouldn't have kept the money.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Monique Goodwin says she nearly died from an asthma attack because paramedics couldn't open the security gate to her apartment. Manager Linda Kyle says Monique never purchased a remote control.
Now, after your incident in November, at some point you were served with an eviction notice. Do you want to tell me why you served her with an eviction notice?
The eviction notice that Ms. Goodwin was served with had nothing to do with the gate. It was due to a nuisance matter where her and her sister was fighting all outside.
You have a complaint?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? Who witnessed this?
Actually, it was 3 or 4 apartments in the complex that called and reported that there was a big scene.
Did you have surround sound in your apartment?
No, I do not own surround sound.
Your Honor, she told me she owned surround sound.
When did she tell you that?
When I asked her to turn her music down.
What did she say?
She said that she didn't feel that she should have to get rid of her surround sound, that she had a right as long as she paid her rent and her apartment to play her music whenever she felt like it.
Which is a lie.
Okay, so you were served with this 3-day notice to quit on December the 1st.
No, I wasn't.
When were you served?
I was given this notice to quit on December the 3rd. I tried to give her my rent on the 1st of December. She looked at me with a big smile on her face while me and my mom was in her office and told me that she was not going to accept my rent.
Okay. So she said, I'm not going to accept your rent on December 1st. You were given a notice to vacate the apartment. When did you, in fact, leave the apartment?
We went to court on January the 5th. I didn't leave until January the 22nd.
What was your rent?
My rent was $625.
Did you pay rent for December?
I tried. I have.
Don't tell me you tried.
No, I...
Did you pay rent for December? Did you live there in December?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay rent in January?
No, I did not, because she...
Did you live there in January?
Yes, I did. I tried to give her my rent. She did not want it.
No, she wanted you out. The only issue is whether, when you moved out, you owed any money. You lived there for 2 months, You didn't pay rent for 2 months. I'm not here to determine whether or not the underlying case of the eviction was right or wrong. That's been resolved by the housing court. I'm here because you want your security deposit back, and what I'm saying to you is you expected to live there for December and January and not have, I'm speaking, and not pay rent?
I'm gonna get mad.
Are you living someplace now that you like?
Yes, me and my kids are very happy.
Good, that's what I think should happen. I think that you and your children should find a place to live where you're very happy. Does it have a gate?
Yes, it does. And as a matter of fact, the people can get in and out of the gate.
Perfect. Then you're in a place where you're happy.
But the problem...
Listen to me. You're in a place where you're happy. All right. Now, you were given an opportunity to get a remote control for the gate. You chose not to get one. Even after your daughter had a seizure, you chose not to get one.
What does that have to do with the paramedics? I don't understand that.
Miss Goodwin, listen, there are no free rides.
Yeah, but this is the receipt that I tried to give her my rent money. But she would not take it from me.
You just paid it with your security deposit, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Me and my daughter could have lost our lives while we were in that paramedics.
Well, I think Judge Judy got a chance to see through Miss Monique.
This lady is a very good liar, and she lies all the time.
She's young. This is her first apartment.
She's just and I hate her, and I'm going to keep hating her.
She's a little hard-headed. You can't make her understand.
She's just like, ugh.
Pray for patience.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hackett versus Duval. Step forward, please.
Tree surgeon James Hackett is suing medical assistant Patricia Duval for cashing his winning lottery ticket after he lost it.
Mr. Hackett, it is your claim that the defendant cashed your winning lottery ticket.
Yes, ma'am.
Defendant says she found it. It's hers.
That's correct.
When did you purchase this lottery ticket, sir?
I purchased it on a Saturday. It was October the 2nd of last year. And on that day, I went down to the lottery agency and found they weren't open. So I put it in my wallet and decided...
Just a second. When was the drawing?
It was drawn that day.
The same day?
Yes.
Where did you watch the numbers?
It was on a TV screen in the store. The numbers came up. It was the first game. I won. I was amazed.
Had you played those numbers before, or was it a random?
Three of the numbers are birthdays. My mother's, and one of my other deceased brother's birthday. The other three are random numbers that come up a lot. So I played them together and happened to win.
Okay. Where did you purchase the ticket?
Chelmsford, Massachusetts.
Where?
It was a convenience store in Massachusetts.
When you found out that you won on these numbers, what did you do with your winning ticket?
I brought it up to the counter, and the store manager, what he does is a general practice. In that store, they photocopy it and hang it up on a little display thing to tout the winning numbers.
So he photocopied your lottery ticket?
He did, fortunately.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. James Hackett is suing Patricia Duval for cashing his winning lottery ticket. Patricia says she found the ticket, so it should be hers.
What happened to the ticket, Mr. Hackett?
Well, the following Monday, I went back to work. I'm a professional tree climber.
A tree climber, what is that?
I climb trees and reduce them, take them down. I do difficult takedowns.
Okay.
And I did all the hard work in the morning, and there was one easy one. And 21 years of climbing, this one little stupid tree I'm climbing, a branch broke. I fell out of the tree 12 feet. I hit the ground. I break 8 ribs, my wrist. I puncture a lung. And the ambulance comes to get me, and I can hear a chopper coming. I can't breathe. And I have the guys flip me over on my back and take my gear off, my saddle, my hooks, my chainsaw, all the stuff, my helmet, was all my safety gear.
Is that when you claim that you lost your lottery ticket?
They cut my pants off, my wallet.
Is that what you claim?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Where exactly was this? Where did this happen?
In Berlin, Massachusetts.
Is that where you live, in Berlin?
No, ma'am.
Where do you live?
Douglas, Mass.
Were you in Berlin?
Not Berlin, no.
Where did you find the lottery ticket?
Northborough, Mass, at a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot.
How far is that from Berlin?
I couldn't tell you.
No.
It's a town or two away, ma'am.
So it's one town away?
Yeah, I believe so.
Good. Now we come to you.
Okay.
You found the lottery ticket in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot,
Yes,
one
I did.
town away from where he lost his lottery ticket, right?
Yes.
And what did you do with it?
Well, my husband and I came out of the Dunkin' Donuts and we were going to our car, and I seen it on the ground, and I picked it up and looked at it. It also had like a confirmation with the ticket saying that apparently it was a winner. So it was late, it was about 6:37 at night.
What date?
October 7th.
Okay.
And so I picked it up, and the next day I went to the lottery agent, and sure enough, it was a winner, and it wasn't signed, so I signed it, and I did cash it.
Cash it. Okay. And how much money did you get?
$1,600.
Ma'am, I have a problem with that.
Now, Mr. Hackett, after you realized that your lottery ticket was missing, you contact the lottery office?
Yes, I boogied down there from, as soon as I got out of the hospital.
And at that point, you went down there with the numbers that you had.
Yes.
Did you go back to the store that had posted the winning lottery?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me see it, please.
Ma'am, she's saying she's found...
Oh, it's a Keno.
It's a Keno.
Keno.
Yeah. I'm not in the habit of playing it, but if I have a fistful of dollars, I'll play it once in a while.
Okay. So you went down to them, got this.
Yes, ma'am.
Got this.
Unfortunately, they had photocopied that.
Right.
3 of those numbers are birthdays that mean something to me.
Don't say anything.
Sorry, ma'am.
You never can tell. So far, you're doing okay.
But, ma'am, I don't know this gentleman at all.
I don't
Never
know you
seen
either.
him before in
Mr.
my
Hackett,
life.
did I give you an opportunity to speak? Was she quiet when you were speaking?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't interrupt her.
I've never seen him before in my life.
You don't have to see him.
And there was no signature on it. And like any normal person, if you find something that's worth something and there's no signature, no ownership, then you're going to keep it, you know?
I am satisfied that Mr. Hackett lost his lottery ticket.
Well, yes,
and based upon this, I am satisfied that the winning lottery ticket that you found belonged to Mr. Hackett.
Ma'am, I hit it.
I'm speaking!
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Let's say, Miss Duval, that you're walking along the street and you find a 4-carat emerald-cut diamond. Doesn't have a name, doesn't have an address, doesn't have anything. And you take it home. And you say, gee, this looks great. I'm going to size it and wear it on my finger. And you do. Then you're having your nails done a week later. And the woman at the next counter is sitting there and she says, it's a nice ring. And you say, yeah, I found it. She said, well, I lost my ring last week. Do you mind if we take it in to the jeweler? Because I have my GIA that you get when you buy a diamond, and it maps all the little dots in a diamond so it can identify, you know, one diamond from another. You go with her to the gemologist, and he said, that diamond belongs to that report.
Yes, and I would agree. Yes, I would agree.
That's her diamond.
Yes.
Even though you found it. Just a second.
Yes.
Even though you found it.
Yep.
He lost his lottery ticket. His problem is not with you finding it and cashing it. His problem is once you found out that it was his lottery ticket, you shouldn't have kept the money.
I just found out when I got notified.
Oh, there we go. So we have no problem. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. Thank you.
Your Honor. Parties are excused. You may step out. Case number 234 on the calendar in the matter of Gransbury Conte versus Marine. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Pronounce your last name for me.
Gransbury Conte.
Miss Conte, you have a son.
That is correct.
Whose name is Zane. He is currently incarcerated.
He's in a rehab.
Did he go into rehab after his term in prison?
Yes.
This lady has a daughter. Her daughter has a child with your son.
Yes.
Her daughter is currently in rehab.
No, she's home, ma'am.
How long was she in rehab?
35 days.
Probably not enough.
Probably not.
But this is not about the child. This is not about anything. This is about a dog. Because it is your claim that Miss Marine
yes.
had your son's dog, a year-old pit bull, and she took possession of the dog when your son went to prison. There was an agreement that she would do that, but after 9 or 10 months, she gave the dog away. Miss Marine says nobody wanted this dog. The dog was an untrained animal when she got him. And she's counterclaiming because she said, if you've got your son's power of attorney, you ought to pay her for the year's worth of food and vet bills. And in addition to the fact that she fed this dog and took care of him for a year, he also was dangerous and caused injury to her pet duck. And there was substantial vet bills. So that's what the case is about. Don't you have better things to think about than this?
Yes.
You've got a son who's got a drug problem. You've got a daughter who's got a drug problem. You share a grandchild.
Yes.
And how old is this grandchild?
She's 22 months, ma'am.
I'm going to get to your case in a second, but it would seem to me that you two ladies, if you were intelligent young ladies, would concentrate on this 22-month-old child who had the misfortune of having two drug addicts as parents.
Absolutely.
Ah! We reach an accord. Perfect. All right, so let's take care of the dog first, and then we're going to talk about the baby.
Okay.
When your son went to jail, why didn't you take the dog?
I went to Spokane to pick the dog up. At that time, I was with Carrie. I stayed at Carrie's house, and we had an agreement because I was going to take the dog to take it back, and she had asked me if I would leave the dog with her because she felt that it made it like my son was still there.
You mean her daughter?
Yeah, her daughter.
Go ahead. So her daughter said, leave me the dog because I will feel close to my man.
Yeah, exactly. And I had offered, you know, I said, if anything comes up with the dog, if you can't handle it, anything that you need to give me a call, you know, I had no problem, you know, making payments for dog food or whatever. You know, we did talk about that.
That's with her daughter?
Yeah, with her daughter. Melody wasn't even in the picture.
Okay. But there came a time when Melanie came into the picture.
Carrie had gotten sick. She had some other medical problems.
Her daughter?
Yes. Melody, from what I understand, stepped in to help Carrie with the dog.
And when was that?
I'm not sure exactly when, because Carrie and I were not talking after November because of Melody.
Why?
When I went down there for my son's trial, I had stayed with Carrie, and Melody has nothing but horrible things to say about my son to my face on a regular basis, even when she put on my wedding.
Okay.
That's all I heard about.
Oh, okay. So the mother was angry at your son?
Exactly. And she had interceded a letter from my son to Carrie, and she said that if Carrie's plan was to be a jailhouse bride, she wasn't going to have no part of it. She was going to give her an ultimatum that she wasn't going to take care of her child and the dog and everything if this is what her daughter's choice was going to be. I went and I, you know, told Carrie what she had said. Carrie confronted her mom, and Melody twisted it and said that wasn't what she said, and then, you know, Carrie wasn't talking to me.
If you had a daughter, would you want her to marry somebody who was in jail?
No.
Of course not.
No.
Because you would think that that was a bad choice.
Exactly.
So how many months did the dog stay with Miss Marine before you asked for the dog back?
April is when I found out she gave the dog away. So
Now,
it was like 7 months.
Now, what I'm asking you, so you knew that Miss Marine had the dog for 7 months.
Not her, Carrie.
How many months did you know that she had the dog, not
None.
Carrie? None. At all?
None.
Okay. And she actually had the dog for how many months?
Between 8 and 9 months.
After your daughter couldn't take care of the dog anymore?
My daughter never took care of the dog.
So that means that for 8 or 9 months you weren't checking on this dog regularly?
Oh, yes, I did.
Well, who did you check with the dog?
There's a mutual party that was taking care of my wiener dog.
You mean a dachshund?
Yeah.
Why wasn't the dachshund with you?
My husband and I had just gotten married, and we lived in an apartment.
So you couldn't take care of these dogs anyway?
We were in the process of purchasing a house.
So there was a period of time when you could not take care of not only this dog, but you couldn't take care of your little dog because you were in an apartment. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So get over it. This wasn't a dog that you were attached to. This wasn't a dog that you were responsible for at any time physically. You're just suing her about this dog because you're angry at her.
No, she has no right to take my son's dog. This is about my son.
Stop worrying about your son. Let your son worry about getting his life together.
Well, he is doing that.
Well, that's good. He's in rehab, and he should worry about taking care of himself, not a 90-pound untrained pit bull.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's cleaning up after not only her daughter, but her daughter and your son. And instead of
She has a restraining order against us.
Well, there must be a reason for that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kim Gransberry Conte, says the mother of her son's girlfriend, Melody Marine, owes for the return of a pit bull named Samson. Melody claims Kim is angry because she is seeking custody of their granddaughter.
Madam, devote your energies to rehabilitating your son and perhaps engaging your granddaughter in some sort of a relationship before you ruin the relationship that you have totally with this lady, who it appears to me, at least based upon what I read, has filed a petition for custody of the child. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Temporary.
Well, somebody's got to take temporary custody of her.
I have a letter here that clearly shows what Melanie's intent is towards my son and towards me, you know.
So, now let's get to the expenses of the dog that you're talking about on your counterclaim, then I'm going to read the letter. You have a counterclaim because you want the cost of the food, etc., for the dog, is that right?
That would be nice.
Well, it would be nice, but she's not responsible for that. You chose to keep the dog. As far as I'm concerned, you could have given the dog away the day it came into your possession. What happened with your duck?
In the morning when I go out to open up the chicken coop and feed them and let them out for the day, Samson's just charged in before I did and kind of head-butted the duck and smacked his head on the back of the chicken coop, and his eye just gradually swelled and festered and eventually had to be removed.
So that you have to understand that Samson was your responsibility, and if you were in any way negligent in taking care of him that allowed him access to the duck, that's not her fault. Now, well, this certainly is a very angry letter. It's a letter, Miss Marine, that you wrote to Zane, I assume, while he was incarcerated.
Yes.
And let me tell you how I evaluate this letter. Your son and her daughter, who she refers to in this letter as a bunch of miserable dopeheads, she refers to her own daughter that way, created a child that she now has to take care of. You have other children?
My children are grown. I have another grandchild.
How old is your other grandchild?
He'll be 6 next month.
Who does he live with?
His mother.
That's what's supposed to happen. You have children who are in their 20s and 30s, and they choose to have families, and they come and visit every Sunday or every other Sunday, and they spend 2-3 hours. They mess up your house, and then they go home. They don't come to live with you when they're 2 years old. You're having a wonderful time. You got a new husband, you got a new house, you're moving, everything is nice, and she's getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's taking care of kids who have the stomach flu and virus and daycare and all this other stuff, because 2 young people who didn't know enough to use adequate protection had a baby and happened to be 2 drug addicts and said, oh, I'm not, somebody else is going to take care of my problem. So your son, instead of writing from prison and saying to her, thank you for taking care of my child. If there's anything I can do, keep tabs on what it is that you're spending. I can never repay you, but at least I can help when I get out, is very interested in his dog. Who's got my dog, and who's going to take care of my dog, and you've got my dog, and I want my dog back. And she says in the letter, before you ask about your dog, why don't you ask about your daughter, Lark?
Oh, he did.
No.
That's her.
No.
That's her letter.
Much later on in the letter, clearly. Before you get angry. So your son's clearly got his priorities all screwed up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kim Gransberry Conte says the mother of her son's girlfriend, Melody Marine, owes for the return of a pit bull named Samson. Melody claims Kim is angry because she is seeking custody of their granddaughter.
You have to understand that she's cleaning up after not only her daughter, but her daughter and your son. And instead of suing her...
She has a restraining order against us.
Well, there must be a reason for that.
I haven't done anything to her.
I have no restraining order.
She said she has
it hasn't been served. It never got served.
She said she has no restraining order. What I'm telling you is, I think that you should start to mend fences before you build barriers. This lawsuit is a barrier. You have no case anyway, and I think the long-term picture that you should look at is that it's quite probable that this little grandchild is going to require 2 sets of grandparents to help raise her, unless her parents get their acts together. And so far, I see a mother who checked into rehab for 35 days, which isn't enough time. I hope that your son does better in his program, because certainly he probably has a jail term hanging over his head if he doesn't.
Yes.
In any event, you two ladies, if you're smart, are going to get together for the sake of this 22-month-old baby who probably will need you. Your case is dismissed, as is your counterclaim.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I, had hoped that my son would at least get his dog back.
I think that Kim filed the suit because I am seeking temporary custody of my granddaughter.
Oh, no, it's not. Melody thinks she is Saint Melody and thinks that she can just take everybody's stuff and do whatever she wants.
I hope that Kim can follow through with her promise and teach Lark how to crochet and sew, because I know how to cook and garden.
I just wanted to let her know that she's not going to walk all over me, and yes, I am going to watch out for my granddaughter.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Butler versus Owens. Step forward, please.
24-year-old law student Camilla Butler is suing her former roommate, personal banker Nicole Owens, for breaking a lease and unpaid bills. Nicole says she gave Camilla ample notice.
Miss Butler, you and Miss Owens were roommates. You claim she moved out prematurely, owing you 2 months' rent. The 2 months were for the months that you were not going to be there, but you claim an agreement that she would pay rent until the end of May. You also claim she owes some bills. She said she gave you 3 weeks' notice, and she left her $250 security deposit with you. That more than covers any outstanding bills. That's your defense. When did you move in together?
Your Honor, we moved in together on January 22nd. That's when we agreed to move in together over the phone.
Okay. Now, you moved into an apartment that you had or she had, or that was a brand-new apartment?
It was a brand-new apartment for both of us.
Good. Can I see the lease, please?
Absolutely.
Who found the apartment, Miss Butler?
The defendant and I agreed to move into the apartment one day. Gage and I went up to Long Beach to...
So you looked at it together for the first time?
We found it separate. I'm sorry. I found it alone.
And you signed the lease alone?
She did not sign the lease. However,
that means that she is not a signatory to the lease. If she did not sign the lease, madam, then she is not responsible under this lease. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is not the lease upon the contract that you are suing on. You're suing on a contract that you had with her, according to you, to live in the apartment until the end of May.
That's correct, Your Honor. It was an
Good.
oral agreement.
And may I see that agreement?
It was not in writing. It was oral, Your Honor.
Well, tell me about the oral agreement that you think is binding.
Okay. We agreed orally over the telephone to move in together. We agreed on an apartment together orally, and we agreed orally that she would sign the lease that evening.
But she never did.
That's true. She never did sign the lease.
Okay, Ms. Owens, let me hear what happened on the 22nd of January.
I never said I would move in and stay there until May. I never made an oral agreement that I would sign the lease that night. None of that ever happened.
Well, when she called you, did she tell you how long a lease she had to sign?
It was month to month.
This is a month-to-month lease.
Yes, Your Honor, it is. However, we agreed together, separately, outside of the lease agreement, that we would be living together until May 31st.
She didn't want to live with you after March.
Yes, she did tell me March 10th that she was entertaining the idea of moving out. At that day, we talked about it. I said, that's fine if you want to move out. That's fine with me. However, if you choose to move out, you need to make sure that you find somebody to move in your place. She agreed.
That's not true.
Well,
no, that's not true. Just because you say it doesn't make it true, Ms. Butler. She paid for March's rent, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not responsible for the lease in April or May. You could have given your landlord notice and moved. You chose to stay there.
However, we did agree that we would live together until the end of May.
Listen, people get married and they agree to live together till death do us part. 50% of those people go their own way. Just because you agree doesn't mean that she has to stay there. Now, what about her security deposit?
We haven't gotten the security deposit back since the landlord is still in the process of cleaning the apartment and, I guess, seeing what needs to be done.
But you had $250 in security deposit?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, what bills do you say she left when she left?
There was a gas bill for February, electric bill for February, garage rental for March, gas bill for March, and also there were 10 days of rent between January 22nd and January 31st, where apparently we didn't pay for it in February, so we had to pay it later, and Nicole never paid that part.
So let me have those figures, please.
Okay. Your Honor, would it be okay for Gage to testify about the conversations he had with Nicole?
Sure. Last name?
Duran.
I'm ready to hear you.
Essentially what happened is Nicole said, I'm just going to leave, and that's the end of the story, and that she gave Camilla her 30 days notice, but the landlord required that 30 days notice.
Well, let me tell you, I've looked over your damages. Your damages, you say, were $1,129.83. If you deduct April's garage rental, because she wasn't there in April, and if you deduct the $850 in rent, comes out to exactly $249, and she's got $250 in security deposit. So really the only issue is it reasonable for Ms. Owens to pay you 1 month's rent to have given you a full 30 days notice of her intention to leave? Do you think it was reasonable for you to give her 1 month's notice, 30 days notice?
I didn't even know until 3 weeks prior that I would be moving out.
That's not her fault.
I know.
That's your fault.
That. Yeah,
that's your fault.
That.
And 30 days notice is not unreasonable, because if she were to give the landlord 30 days notice pursuant to the lease, then she could have, I don't care if she went home to live with her mother. I don't care if she went home to live with this guy. I don't care if she goes into a shelter. That's not the issue. The issue is you had to do the right thing and give her 30 days notice, which you didn't do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, I understand that.
So, minimally, you owe her $425, which is your half of the rent for 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the bills is more than covered by her security. You left the place pretty clean?
Oh, yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $425. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please. That's case number 499 on the calendar, the matter of Todoran versus Bracken. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Todoran, who was your witness?
My old roommate, Julie Perry.
Does she have information with regard to this case?
We lived together when Chad and I first started dating and when I moved out to New York with him.
That doesn't answer my question. Does she have evidence with regard to this case, or is she just here for moral support?
She's
is not an answer. Come on. You're going to law school?
Yes.
All right. That's what I gather from your complaint. If you're going to law school, you give me an answer. Does she have evidence? Does she have testimony to offer? Or is she here as just for good company?
She just has testimony.
Just has testimony. What year of law school are you in?
First.
Okay. And he?
I'm learning.
It's Ryan Barr. That's one of my best friends from New York. He'll offer testimony. He helped move the furniture.
Okay, good. You two people used to be in love with each other. You lived together for a little while. You don't anymore. And you claim he owes you some money for a loan, and he's got some property that belonged to you, a sofa or something that he agreed to pay for, and he didn't when you broke up. Mr. Bracken says that you were involved in a give-and-take relationship. That's what people do when they live together. Sometimes you paid, sometimes he paid. He owes you nothing.
Correct.
When did you move in together and where?
We first moved into an apartment. It was in June of 2003.
Listen to me. Is that the apartment we're talking about in this case?
There are 2 apartments. We moved into
I'm
one.
not interested in the first apartment in 2003.
They're both 2003.
Get to the one where you were living in, where you say you had to advance money for the security and first, last, and security. When was that?
That was July 2003.
How much was the rent on the apartment?
$1,700 a month.
What were you doing at the time?
I got a job as a freelance designer.
And he?
He was a production assistant.
And you agreed to split the rent?
Yes.
Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Good. Did you give her money for rent?
Yes, I did.
How much?
Half the rent. And what would happen a lot of times is...
I'm talking about when you first moved in.
Sorry.
When you first moved in, you have to give first, last, security. It's a whole big chunk of money.
Right.
Did you have that money to give her?
It did not happen in July the way you're stating it.
That's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
So you did not give her that money. How much did you give the landlord in July?
$5,000.
You have proof of that?
I have a receipt for my deposit and for $1,700, and I have the receipt for the broker's fee that I paid of $1,700.
Well, let me see what you have the receipt from. You should have the receipt from everything. You should have your check, cancel checks.
Your Honor, I didn't keep a lot of the documentation because he was my boyfriend and I trusted him and I loved him and I did not think that I would ever need these kind of things. We had an oral agreement.
Listen to me, my dear.
I trusted him. I know it was stupid.
Listen to me, my dear. You're going to law school. When two people love each other and are committed to each other, they get married. Then we have courts for them. What happened with you is you decide to come into court and to sue him and say, listen, I didn't keep my receipts. I don't have proof, but we had an agreement. And our agreement when we moved in together was we were going to split the bills down in half, right? And we didn't. I paid more. And he says, well, there came a time when you moved into this apartment that you lost your job.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up the slack.
No, he didn't.
Well, that's what he's saying.
He's lying.
Just a second. How am I supposed to figure that out?
I moved out in December, and I paid rent through the end of January to give him time to find a new place, because actually we were getting evicted.
Show me.
I can't. I called the landlord, and they refused to send me receipts since I was involved in a lawsuit. I'm telling the truth. I'm under oath. I would not make this up.
Did you break the lease?
We did. They just let us out. They just let us out of it.
What happened in 2004?
He made payments to me all year.
How much?
He paid me payments of $62, $100, $60, $50, $150. The last payment was this past December, 2004. I have the cashier's check right here for $150.
How much did he pay you in total?
$422.
What did you give her $422 for?
I felt that I owed her after, because every time I would try to negotiate with Ms. Todoran and say, because she always stuck with that number. And
What number?
$5,800. And I said, there's a lot of things that we need to talk about, why certain expenses shouldn't be considered in that debt and other things like that. Now, so what I came to determine was $1,400. And so I was acting in good faith by paying towards that.
Okay, so let us say that after 2.5 years, you decided that $1,400 was your fair share.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you paid for some things, she paid for some things. Neither of you have records.
I have records. I can show
So
everything.
why didn't you finish paying the $1,400?
No, I did. That's
She
what
says
the
she
payment.
got $400 from you, $422.
Okay, I can show.
Show me canceled checks for more.
Certainly.
And then we're out of here.
Well, I can only show you $300 in addition to what she is saying.
Show me.
Is that, as well as I have copies of the, I would write bills down that I owed on legal
Just a second.
pads.
I see one thing for, what?
It's very hard to tell this
I see
stuff.
one thing for $150.
And the other thing does say 150. It's hard to tell.
Well,
know
I
it's
can't read it. If
under-numbered.
I can't read it, my dear, then it doesn't exist.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She said she would stay until February. In actuality, 3 days later, she was packing when I got back from work.
It must have been your personality.
And later today,
I want him to leave me alone because I have a restraining order against him.
Your son has to get over the fact that she doesn't want to have anything to do with him anymore.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Emily Todoran says ex-boyfriend Chad Bracken owes for loans and a couch. Emily says moving to New York with Chad was a big mistake.
She has $422.
Mm-hmm.
Does that include a check on November 29th, 2004 for $150?
I have a copy of that right here.
Okay. You got credit for it.
Okay.
$422. So what happened to the rest?
All
What
right.
happened to the other $1,000, Mr. Bracken?
Okay. Now the rest, well, there are payments. As Ms. Todoran said, we didn't keep a lot of these things, so I've shown you everything that I do have.
All right, so let's
But
start from the
I'm sorry. I do have all the expenses from moving her furniture, which was 6 months after she left, actually almost 7 months after she left, that I kept with me. I moved twice. Mr. Barr helped me move these things into Brooklyn. Now, when we moved from New York, I moved everything and paid all the expenses to return her furniture to her.
How much was that?
$1,227.
Did you receive furniture from him?
No, I did not.
Just what did you return to her, sir?
I returned all her stereo equipment, a television.
Nope.
Show me the address where you sent it.
I didn't send it. She came and picked it up from my house when I got back to Indianapolis.
Lies.
You said expenses to send it back to her.
No, to move it back.
Give it back to him. You owe her $1,000. That's based on your statement, sir, because I'm not going through your bills from 2.5 years ago. $50 here and $12 there. Let's take what you have.
Okay.
The debt that you acknowledge was $1,400 and you paid her $422. That leaves About $1,000. Now, what about this couch that she says that she sold to you and you never paid her for?
Okay, can I just back up 1 second?
Yeah.
So the moving expenses.
I'm getting so bored with this.
All right, all right. All right,
Why is
the
it boring?
furniture. Basically, the furniture, when she decided to move, she said she would stay until February. In actuality, 3 days later, she was packing when I got back from work in a minivan. Now,
It must have been your personality.
I can't speak to what was in her head. I
The
can't
couch,
speak to what her...
the couch.
Okay, so she left 3 days later in a minivan. She said, I can't, move this furniture. I said, well, if you're going to charge me half of it, take the furniture with you. She said, no, I can't move it. You keep it.
Okay, and your version of the couch?
My version of the couch is we went to the store together with the intention of purchasing a couch and paying for half of it, which I have the receipt for
No,
right
you
here.
weren't intending to purchase a couch for half. You were intending to purchase a couch for full price.
Yes, so I
And you were
purchased...
each going to pay half.
I purchased the couch for full price, and before I purchased it, I said, you're going to pay me back for half of this, correct?
Just don't look at it, don't look at it.
Okay, and he said yes. So then when I was moving, he was going to stay in New York for an indefinite period of time. So I said, you know what, you keep the couch, you still owe me half for it, but you just go ahead and keep it.
Listen, when two young people want to play house, they shouldn't irritate me. You have the couch?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you return her stereo equipment?
Absolutely.
No.
Did you return her television set?
I returned everything.
Go ahead.
Sometime in April or something, the new apartment he lived in New York, burnt down.
Did he return any property to you?
He returned my TV, but my stereo apparently was damaged in the fire.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,000. That's all. Step out. Don't play house anymore.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The defendant is probably the biggest liar I've ever met in my entire life.
When we got to the end of the relationship and she hadn't been employed for 2 months, she realized she'd be safer back at home. I think she left.
I thought Chad was sketchy all along, so I was actually warning her at the time when she wanted to move to New York with him to not do it.
She made a bad decision being in New York, and she paid for it, and she wanted me to be the easy target.
I just don't understand how a person like that can live their life and get out of bed and think they're a good person every day, and his hair is kind of disturbing too.
I hope this ends it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Webb versus Batum, step forward.
21-year-old Philip Webb is suing his ex-fiancée, 19-year-old cashier Crystal Batum, for rent and the return of a wedding ring set. Crystal says Philip is stalking her.
Are you scared to death or just unhappy?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Cheer up. It's only money. Mr. Webb, Ms. Batum used to be your girlfriend. You lived together for a period of time at some point in your mother's house. Is this your mother?
Yes.
You broke up and you claimed that Ms. Batum came to the house and she took a ring set that you purchased.
Yes.
You want the ring set back. And in addition, you say that Ms. Batum also owes you for a month's rent.
Yeah, for her half of the rent.
Her half of the rent when you were living at your mother's house.
Yes.
Ms. Batum says she paid for the ring set and that there was never any arrangement to pay rent to your mother. Neither of you ever paid rent to your mother. Is that right?
Yeah.
When did you start to live with Ms. Batum in your mother's house?
In August, my mother...
August of what year?
2004. My mother had spoke with us in August and told us, now that, both of us are working with a steady income, she wanted us to pay $300 a month rent.
Mm-hmm.
And then September 23rd is when she left. And I had...
did she agree to pay your mother $300 a month rent?
Yes, we both did.
When in August did your mother have this conversation with you?
Around the middle of the month.
And when did she expect you to start to pay rent?
She expected us to start to pay rent the following month.
In September?
Yes.
And she moved out in September?
She moved out in the end of September.
Mr. Webb, you got to get over this.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Philip Webb says ex-fiancée Crystal Batum owes for rent and the return of a wedding ring set. Crystal says Philip is still in love with her.
So did you pay your mother $300 on September 1st? You have a check for that, I assume.
No, I paid her cash. I paid her around the middle of the month when I had gotten my paycheck.
And what about in October? Did you pay her in October?
No, I had moved out.
When in October?
I moved out around the 5th, 6th of October.
And you mean you didn't pay her for October? For the first 6 days in October? You understand what I'm saying to you,
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Webb? Well,
understand.
you're getting my gist. Stop being petty. Now let's forget about the rent. And let's go to the ring set.
The ring set, I have the receipt where I purchased it.
Good. Do you have the proof that you paid for it?
I paid in cash. So,
Really? Let me see.
And the lady's business card that sold it to me.
I want to
I have
see what
that
you
also.
have. And then Ms. Badum says that she paid for the ring set. So we're going to see. Paid for the ring set. This says paid $500, tax included. Now, Ms. Badum, you left sometime in September.
Yeah.
You had an argument, or you just decided things
No,
weren't
I
good?
got tired of everything and I just up and left.
Tell me why you took the ring set.
Well, because we both went in halves on it. We went to the bank, we pulled out some of the money, and then he went back and gave them the rest. And it wasn't 500, it was 300.
Well, he has a receipt that he paid
Yeah,
for this.
well, I
and-
have the rings, so.
Let me have them. Do you have any proof whatsoever, Miss Badum, that you paid for these rings?
No, because it came out of the ATM.
Okay. Good. Very nice. He gets them back. Perfect. Anything else?
No, that's it.
I want him to leave me alone, too, because I have a restraining order against him. And on February 12th, he mailed me a letter.
Can I see the letter? Can I see a copy of a restraining order? You attended a hearing, Mr. Webb, with regard to this restraining order?
Yes.
Did you consent to the restraining order?
I consented, but I didn't agree with it because
I don't care
a
whether
lot
you
of it
agreed
was...
with it or not. You consented to it.
Yes,
You
I
were to
did.
stay away within 100 yards from her,
And I have
from her
done so.
home, and from her job, right?
Yes.
It was her birthday?
Yes.
That's why you sent these?
Yes.
You're not allowed to send them.
I didn't know that. I just was told I had to stay away from her work and stay away from her.
Listen to me, Mr. Webb. You were served with a copy of this protective order.
Yes.
In this protective order, it not only says that you have to stay 100 yards away from her, it reads, and I'm going to read it to you very carefully. You may not do the following. You may not contact her directly or indirectly, or telephone, send messages, or mail or email. Now, while this is not threatening,
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's a love letter. You're not understanding that it's over and that she doesn't want you to have any contact with her. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
You don't want to get into any further difficulty. Is there any other thing that I have to resolve with regard to property or anything else?
Yeah, I have one more thing. I left my birth certificate there. I need my birth certificate back.
Okay. Now you can stand up. Your last name is Webb?
Correct.
You have her birth certificate?
I do.
Okay. I want you to give her birth certificate to your mother. Your mother is going to mail it to this court. This court will see to it that you get it.
Okay.
May I say something, please?
Yes.
I know you already went over the rent issue, but I have to bring it up again. It was August 2003. She was the only one with a job at that point.
I'm telling you, you spoke to her in the middle of August. She moved out in September. We're talking about petty stuff, Miss Webb.
I
Petty.
understand that, but
I'm telling you that you're talking about petty stuff. Your son moved out into the month of October. Did you sue him for the rent?
No, because he did
Just a
give
second.
me a full...
Just a second. Did you sue him for the rent?
No, I did not,
Of
ma'am.
course not, because you're not petty, right? Your son has to get over the fact that she doesn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. And you should, as his mother, not exacerbate it. You should say, listen.
No, I just want what's mine, and she owes the rent.
Well, I think that you should speak to your son about it.
He already paid her half.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
Okay, good. You have a check?
No.
You have
No,
a check?
he paid me in cash
You have
for
a check?
$300.
Good. I don't believe you. Sit down. There is no need for you to contact her anymore. Put a period. You have the rings. You're not to email her, mail her, phone her, follow her, be within 100 yards of her. Got it?
Yes.
Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. The fact that I've told this to you doesn't prevent her from going back to court and saying you violated the order. She can still do that. I don't know whether she wants to do that, but what she wants is she wants you to know unequivocally that you're not to have any contact with her. Clear?
Yes, I'm
good.
Perfectly
That's
clear.
all.
Excuse me, step out. Sir, you're right here. Now, this is case number 441 on the calendar in the matter of Smith versus Hampton. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Smith, Miss Hampton is your former wife, and at the time you met, the defendant was pregnant. The child was born during your marriage, but you are not the child's biological father.
No, ma'am. It wasn't born during the marriage.
No, ma'am.
When was he born?
February 21st, 2001.
And when did you marry?
In April of 2001.
Could you keep your voice up, please? I'm old and my hearing is not as good as it used to be.
April of 2001.
Okay. I only devour litigants on Thursday. When did you separate?
It was about July of 2001.
So you were together for 3 months?
Yes.
When were you divorced?
Well, to the courts, we were divorced in 2002.
So you lived together as husband and wife for 3 months?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
the boy was born prior to that, but it was both of your understanding that this was not your biological child.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you were incarcerated off and on from 2001 to 2003.
Yes, ma'am.
During that time, Miss Hampton obtained a divorce, named you as the child's father, and at some point you were ordered to pay child support. You were not present in court.
Yes,
it was a default. I don't know whether you were in jail or out of jail. Were you in jail or out of jail when there was a default?
I was in jail.
Had you been served with the papers?
No, ma'am.
In any event, subsequently, when you got out of jail, you went to court and you had the child support order stopped. But in the interim, money was deducted from whatever salary you had.
Yes, ma'am.
So you want that money back?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hampton said that you were aware of the fact that you were not the child's biological father. You agreed to assume responsibility for his care. Your name is on the child's birth certificate. Is that correct?
No, ma'am.
Is not?
No. He was in jail at the time Tyler was born, so he was not able to sign the birth certificate.
Let me ask you this question, Ms. Hampton. Why did you, in the judgment of divorce, name Mr. Smith as the child's father?
I told my lawyer that he wasn't the father, but he had claimed responsibility. And my lawyer said that since we were living together before the child was born and afterward, and that he wanted my son to have his last name, that he was responsible for it.
Well, all of that is supposition on your lawyer's part, if in fact he told you that, because A, he had not signed the birth certificate, B, he had not claimed responsibility, and more importantly, according to the timeline that both of you gave me, you were married in April of 2001, and less than 3 months later, you separated. So this commitment that he made to your son was of short duration. Then he was in jail. Who was the child's father?
His father's name is Mike.
Is what?
Mike.
Mike. And did you notify Mike that he has a son?
He knows, but we have no contact with each other.
Well, who supports the boy?
I do.
And how long have you done that?
Since he was born.
Good. Then why did you pursue Mr. Smith for support?
I had quit working after I had my second child, and I went through family assistance, and they went after child support.
So you went on welfare?
Yes, ma'am.
After you had a second child with whom?
His name is James.
Shh. Now, where does James fit in this picture? Why didn't he support his child?
He does now, but we had broken up for a time due to a disagreement. We were both working and going to college, and he wasn't there when she was born.
So is what you're telling me that the state pursued the issue of support?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you receive any of this money, or did it all go to welfare?
Part of it went to welfare, and then I received the other part.
Well, do I have any indication of how much you received for the child support as opposed to the state?
I have none of that paperwork. The HR
Do you?
No, ma'am. Just what I paid in child support.
Listen, Mr. Smith, there's a problem, sir. My sense is that whatever you paid in child support, a part of that went to the state.
Yes, ma'am.
Not to her. I don't know how much that was. What were you in jail for, Mr. Smith?
Probation violation.
That's not a crime.
Yes, ma'am. It was breaking and entering a vehicle.
Burglary.
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
One count of that. Yes, ma'am.
One count to cover how many charges, sir?
5.
You know, you think that these things just come to you?
No, ma'am.
There's experience there. You don't spend that much time in jail in this country with overcrowded prisons, unfortunately, for one count of breaking and entering into a car. But when you've been arrested a whole slew of times and you get a lawyer who says, look, we'll lump them all together, one count, how much time did you serve?
I was placed on probation under youthful offender.
And?
And then I had a 3-year sentence if I broke probation.
And did you?
Yes, ma'am.
How?
Failure to report to my probation officer.
Anything else?
That should be it. That's it.
You mean to tell me they put you back in jail for how long because you failed to report to your probation officer? Is that what you're telling me, Mr. Smith?
Well, it could have been...
And I don't want you to look over there. I want you to try to bring those eyes right back here.
I got attempting to elude because I had...
Attempting to elude?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means that you were running away from the police?
Yes, ma'am.
When they came to bring you in so that you could chat with your probation officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you were attempting to elude the police, how did you do that, Mr. Smith?
I ran.
How long did it take them to catch you?
About 6 hours.
So you were running pretty fast. How long have you been out of prison, Mr. Smith?
A year and a half.
Any trouble since?
No, ma'am.
Did you learn your lesson?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I was just so distraught. She told DCFS that they were watching porno. My children told me that they were watching naked people on TV.
falsely named him as the father of her child. He is suing her for the return of child support.
The problem, Mr. Smith, is that probably a good piece of this money went to the state where you live because they were supporting her and this little boy. How much did you pay for the divorce, sir?
I haven't paid anything.
And are you divorced now?
Yes.
Okay, and you paid about $3,000 in child support?
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to have to consider that the cost of your divorce, sir. If you don't want to think of it as child support, think of it as the cost of your divorce, because it is impossible for me to determine how much money of the money that was deducted from your salary went to Miss Hampton and how much went to the state. And I certainly can't, although there's a basic unfairness about it, I certainly can't say to her, you have to return the money to him when she didn't get it. So, you made some mistakes in your life, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
This was just another mistake. Costly, unfortunate, but there is nothing that I can do to help you.
I also had my lawyer fees where I had to take her back to court to get everything dropped.
That's a different story. Let me see that, please. Did you bring the baby to jail to visit him?
Yes, ma'am. He had called me a little bit before Father's Day, and I was nice enough to take Tyler up there to see him.
Why did you do that, sir?
Because then I had found out that she had filed for divorce stuff.
Why did you ask to see the baby?
I didn't. She brought him up there.
He asked how how me and him were doing and everything like that, so I didn't.
But he didn't ask you to have regular visits with him while he was in jail with the baby?
Until right after we went to court and I did my statement to the judge, I had no idea where he was. I hadn't seen him.
So the answer is no. So how much in total did you pay the lawyer, sir?
$500.
Okay. Do you have the final copy of the judgment of divorce with
Yes,
the
ma'am.
modification on it, deleting the child's name? Let's see, please. Well, this talks about the child.
It also says she don't know where I was during the whole proceedings, but she did because I got the letter from jail.
But with that, I went to court on February 27th, before Father's
Of 2002.
Mhm.
This judgment was filed March of 2002.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you find out where he was?
It was right before Father's Day. I don't remember what the date
How did you
was.
find out where he was?
He called me.
Was that the first time he had called you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the postmark on this letter is May of 2002.
Yes, ma'am.
What evidence do you have that she knew where you were?
It's highlighted.
Oh, it says here, I already knew you were here in jail and how you got caught. I had seen Chris in Walmart right after you were caught.
Yes, ma'am. That was right before he called. Actually, I think it was the day he called me from jail.
How much after you got caught, sir, did you call her?
It was probably about 3 months.
I believe you knew where he was. You all live in the same general vicinity?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you knew where he was. Minimally, Ms. Hampton, you're going to pay his legal fees because I think that you should have at least advised the judge that he was in jail and that he couldn't respond. And since he had to retain an attorney to at least get rid of the paragraph here that talks about the boy and that talks about visitation shall be at the discretion of the plaintiff, should have been a little more forthcoming with your lawyer. And you weren't. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just wanted to get on with my life and start my new family and everything.
I just can't believe that he even got with her because she's crazy.
Don't marry too many times.
Be very careful who you marry.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Jones versus Chun. Step forward, please.
Daycare provider Lori Jones is suing her former client, customer service rep Nina Chun, for unpaid babysitting fees and for making false allegations to Child Protective Services.
Mrs. Jones, you run a daycare agency?
Yes, I do.
And you were contacted by the defendant who asked you if you would take care of her children.
Yes.
You did for a short period of time. During the last week, according to you, she gave you a check and then stopped payment on that check. She later removed her children from your care. You want that check, which was $90.
Yes.
And also, it is your claim that she maliciously contacted the State Department of Social Services, who licenses you, and reported that children in your care were being given substandard care. And you want to be compensated for that because it put you out of business for a while. The defendant says that you did, in fact, give her children substandard care, and she is counterclaiming for all the money she paid you for her children's care and for punitive damages.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Chum, how did you find Mrs. Jones?
Well, I was looking for daycare for my children.
How old are your children?
They were 5 years old at the time.
Twins?
Yes. And I had seen Lori at some of the daycare meetings that I'd been to when I was providing child care. So I knew of her.
Fine. And you needed somebody immediately. You brought the children over when?
This was in July, on July 12th.
And what financial arrangements did you make?
They were going to be there for part-time, so she was charging me for part-time for the 2 children at $90 a week.
And how many weeks were the children there?
They were there for about 4.5 weeks or so.
And how many weeks did you pay for?
For all of the time that we were there.
Well, the last check, what happened?
I gave her the check on the Monday. Tuesday afternoon, I came and picked the children up as usual, and she wasn't there. Her husband was there, and I went and I said, you know, where's Lori? And I was told that she had taken one of her children to a doctor. And I said, okay, but the children, as soon as my children sat down in the car, they told me that, Mommy, you know, they were watching naked people on TV.
Daycare provider Lori Jones says former client Nina Chum owes for child care fees and for making false allegations to Child Protective Services. Lori says Nina told authorities her husband was watching pornography while babysitting.
Did you ask the children to describe what they saw?
They just told me that there were naked people on TV, and to be honest with you, I was just so distraught I didn't know what to think or what to do. I just drove home.
Did you question them any further?
I did ask if it was people on the beach, you know, what was it, you know, was it, because sometimes children may say that even people in underwear are naked, so I wanted to be sure, and they said no, they weren't wearing anything. And so that really bothered me, and I just contacted DCFS on the issue so that they could investigate further.
Okay, let's get to the 10th of August. Where were you?
I watched her kids up until about 3:15. And then I took my daughter to the doctor, and my husband watched her kids for me the last half hour.
Why didn't he take your children to the doctor?
I just wanted to, so I just left them with him.
Well, that was a mistake.
Yes, it was.
Is he a daycare provider?
No, he's not.
Then you made a mistake. You made a serious mistake. So the part of your lawsuit, quite frankly, that deals with punitive damages for reporting you to the state, I'm dismissing. If you have children in your charge and you've been licensed by the state, it is your obligation, absent an emergency, to take care of them. And you have absolutely no right to let your husband fill in. And this was a Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Is that right?
Right.
What was he doing home?
He had the day off. I don't remember exactly why he was off that day.
She told me he'd been laid off. So he'd been at home. Most of the time when you go, he's around the house mowing or doing other things.
Was he working at that time?
I don't remember. He's been laid off on and off since August. He'd work a couple weeks and they'd lay him off for a week, and then he'd work a month and they'd lay him off for 2 weeks. It's been that way since August.
Step up, sir. What were you watching on television, Mr. Jones?
Captain Ron. It's a comedy. I brought a copy.
Is there any nudity in that movie?
It just shows that, no, there ain't no nudity. It shows them in bikinis and bathing suits.
PG.
PG-13.
It's still not appropriate for children.
Yeah, it is.
Just
it's
a second.
comedy.
No, PG-13 is not appropriate for children. That means parental guidance, not to watch till you're 13. That's what PG-13 means, Mr. Jones. 5-year-olds watch G-rated movies, not PG-13, right?
Right.
I mean, it's a comedy to you. You think that these 5-year-olds understand the comedy?
Mine does.
Well, then they've been watching too many PG-13 movies. Well, I would be, Miss Jones, quite frankly, I would be pretty annoyed, too.
She told DCFS that they were watching X-rated porno.
I did not tell them
That's
that.
what he told me.
What I said was the children told me they were watching naked people. Children don't know the difference.
Just a second. No.
Know the difference
No.
between all that.
That's not pornography. That's watching naked people. What you did was, and I don't even know if that's what he was watching. So you made 2 mistakes. A, you made arrangements to take your daughter to the doctor at 3:15 in the afternoon while you still had work to do. It was not an emergency. B, if it was an emergency, then you let him take your daughter to the doctor and you stay home. And if the reason that you didn't let him take your daughter to the hospital was because you didn't trust his judgment.
No, that's not it at all.
Well, then there can be no other reason.
26-year-old Lauren Wilson is suing former roommate Natasha Safai for destroying her clothes and other belongings. She is also seeking the return of 1 month's rent.
Miss Wilson, the defendant was a friend of yours, and there came a time, sometime last year, that she invited you to come down to Florida to live with her. For whatever reason, you decided to take her up on that offer and move to Florida from where?
Salisbury, Maryland.
The understanding, according to you, was that the first month she would forgive the rent,
right,
and then you would be able to get a job, start paying your share of the expenses. According to you, you got down to Florida in November.
It was the first week in November, yes.
And according to you, at some point in November, you gave her a check for $175.
No, it was cash.
Cash.
Mm-hmm.
For $175 for next month's expenses.
In anticipation of December's rent, yes.
When did you give that to her?
I think it was about the 11th or the 12th of November.
Is that correct, Ms. Safari?
Yes.
Good. So mid-month, you gave her rent towards December.
Right.
And then you had a falling out. When was the falling out?
It was pretty much steadily. We were just bickering all the time.
What was the date she told you to leave?
It was the 16th of November.
And at that time, she told you that you had 24 hours to get your stuff out.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you claimed that when you finally were able to get all of your stuff, some had been destroyed.
Yes,
with bleach,
a lot of it.
A lot had been destroyed, and some electrical items that you brought had been placed outside on the front porch, and by the time you got to get them, they were gone.
Right.
Ms. Safai says that she did not destroy your property, and she put out the property because you did not come within 24 hours to get your property. She wasn't keeping it in the house, aside from the fact that she thought you were staying home all day fooling around with her boyfriend.
Right.
Which is why you told her to leave.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes.
What made you think she was fooling around with your boyfriend, Miss Safai?
Because a roommate that I had staying there that was getting ready to move out was also home during the day, and she was informing me that Lauren and my ex-boyfriend were spending a lot of time together during the day in the room. They were also making phone calls back and forth to each other.
So did you confront your boyfriend?
Yes, I did.
What did he say?
He said that it wasn't true. But I trust the girl that, had been my roommate.
So how long did you keep the boyfriend after you had her leave?
A few months. We're no longer together.
Why didn't you kick him out?
He wasn't living with me.
Kick him out of your life is my question. Why kick her out? Why not kick him out?
I did eventually, just not at the same time.
Why? Because a good man nowadays is hard to find? What is it? Well, let me tell you this, Miss Safai. You cannot give her 24 hours to get out of your house. She gave you $175, which according to both of you went towards rent. She then becomes a tenant, whether she's on the lease or not. She's your tenant. And unless there is some action that is dangerous to your health and welfare that she's doing in the house, like selling drugs out of your house, inviting people over there that are destroying your property, you don't have the prerogative to say to her, under the law, you have to get out immediately. So that's one thing. So A, you have to return to her the $175. B, you put her stuff out on the porch. What did you put out on the porch?
I put her clothes
and all the rest of her stereo system, all the stuff that she had brought, I put outside.
You can't do that.
Well, I didn't destroy her stuff like that. I mean, I have my witness that was with me when I put the stuff outside, and it did not look like that when I put it outside.
Well, then you didn't take good enough care of it, madam, because then somebody else did it, but it's your fault. You can't put her stuff outside and place her stuff in a position of either being stolen or destroyed or vandalized by other people. You can't do that. So I don't care what your witness says. Once you put that stuff out, having no right to put that stuff out because she's a tenant in your apartment, you are responsible for anything that happens to it. That's it. It's not a hard case. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $383. That's all.
$383?
$1,383.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're right.
Kenneth Kip Panett claims former friend Stacy Schwartz took his car without permission and damaged it. Kenneth says Stacy not only ruined the transmission and clutch, but she also popped one of his tires.
Mr. Panett, you were at a party with the defendant. I assume she was a friend of yours, and it is your claim that she took your car without permission and wrecked it.
She didn't wreck it. She hit a curb and blew out a tire, and the transmission went out.
And Ms. Schwartz says that she had an unfortunate accident and that she might clearly be responsible for replacing a tire, but certainly not the transmission, since she had your permission and this accident was clearly not her fault.
Well, she did not have my permission.
Good. So let's go back. When was this party that you had?
A couple of months ago. It was a Friday night. It was at my house, and I...
Listen, Mr. Panett, how old are you, sir?
23.
What do you do for a living?
I am a market analyst.
Ever been to court before, sir?
No, except for traffic tickets and...
Well, that's court. So, if you're a plaintiff and you have a claim, first thing you figure out is what date.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the questions get harder after that, Mr. Panett. So, a couple of months ago on a Friday night isn't a date.
I believe the date was December 14th, Your Honor.
That's a date. Now, it was on December 14th, 2006. Where were you?
At my house.
Who else was there?
I don't know the exact names, but a bunch of my friends.
And what were you all doing?
Drinking, watching TV, listening to music.
Great. Having a good time. Being responsible.
Yes.
What happened next?
Well, I didn't keep track of everybody around that night. I went to bed maybe around 1 or 2, and the next morning, Stacy called me and said that my car was broken down. I said, you know, how could that be? It should be in front of my house. And she said she was in Sunrise, which is about 20 miles away.
Where do you live?
Downtown Sacramento.
Go ahead.
She said it was broken down. She explained to me that she had taken my car the night before and that it had broken down the night before and that she had spent the night and was calling me in the morning. And I was...
Spent the night where?
At one of her friend's house, I assume.
Okay.
And I explained to her that she had better get my car back to me.
What kind of car do you have?
It's a Nissan Sentra.
Year?
1997. And she said she would. We exchanged words. I was a little upset, and then I fell back asleep. I didn't get my car back until the next day. She had it towed back to my house. At first, she hadn't even told me that a tire had blown out. I did see that for myself when it came to my house. Then she explained that to me. I had not given her permission to drive the car, so I was very upset. Okay.
Don't repeat anything.
Okay.
I have other things to do. Are you finished?
She had told me that she would pay for all damages. She was very apologetic at first, and I had it diagnosed, and she refused to pay it. She said she's not responsible for that.
And when you had it diagnosed, what was the bill?
It was $1,500, not $1,593.83. I'd originally said $1,600. It's I'd rounded when I looked at the receipt. It's actually $6.17 less than that.
Mr. Panett, how did you pay for this?
My father loaned me the money to pay for it, actually.
Did you pay for it in check or cash, sir?
I believe my father used his credit card to pay for it, and I had to pay my father back.
What's your father's name?
John Panett.
His phone number?
It's in my cell phone. I'm sorry.
Or would you please get his cell phone so that we can get the father's number, please? Thank you. And he's going to verify that he paid this bill, sir?
Yes,
when I
he
call
would.
him on the phone? Good. We're going to do that.
Okay.
In a minute.
Okay.
Now, I'll hear you, Miss Schwartz.
On December 14th, I was hanging out at Kip's house, and I asked him if I could borrow his car to go over to Jessica's house.
Where does Jessica live?
A few blocks from his house.
And he said?
He said yes. He let me borrow it.
Good. So you understand, Miss Schwartz,
That's a different place than she was. Excuse me, Your Honor.
You do understand, madam, that you did have limited authority to take his car to go to Jessica's house, which is a few blocks away. You understand that?
Yes. Yeah.
Now tell me what happened.
I drove over to Jessica's house and told her that I was using Kip's car, and she called me at 5 o'clock in the morning and woke me up.
At Jessica's house?
Yes. And told me she was drunk and stranded in Sunrise, so I didn't even think to call Kip and ask permission because he let me borrow his car. He knew I wasn't...
No, my dear.
He knew I wasn't going to bring it back until the morning, so I...
Darling!
Yes.
You get it now? You look as if you're smart enough to get where I'm going.
Yes, ma'am.
You went to pick up your friend in Sunrise. And
yes.
How far is Sunrise from Jessica's house?
Approximately 20 miles.
20?
Miles.
Miles, not blocks. Miles. And it was coming back with her, this drunken friend of yours, that you had the accident.
Yes.
Now tell me about the accident.
I was just driving and I was coasting, so I was in neutral, and then I tried to put it into gear and it would not go into gear, and I went to park immediately and I hit the curb and popped the tire. That was probably about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
You must have hit the curb very hard.
Well, yes, it was hard enough to pop the tire, and I immediately changed the tire, and since it was about 5:30 in the morning, my friend that I picked up just walked to her house because we were about a block away, and I slept in the car and called Kip about 9 o'clock in the morning to tell him that I was going to get his car towed back to him.
Let us assume that I believe you, that Mr. Panett said that you could borrow his car to go to Jessica's house, which is a few blocks away, to
Yes.
stay over. When you exceeded his permission by going 20 miles away the next day, you no longer had his permission. Do you understand that?
But he knew I was going to have it till the morning.
Don't tell me what he knew. He gave you permission, according to you, to drive it a few blocks. A few blocks is not 20 miles.
I have my witness here that saw him give me permission.
I just said, don't you have your listening ears on? I said, if I believe you, he gave you permission to take it a few blocks away. Once you took it 20 miles away, you no longer had permission.
Your Honor, he lets me borrow the car all the time.
That's not true.
Just a second. Where do you think you are?
Right here.
Where is here?
In this witness chair.
And until you stand up there, what are you supposed to do?
Listen to you.
Right. Once you exceeded the scope of the permission, you no longer had permission. That's the law. Do you understand it?
Yes.
So all I have to do is deal with the issue of damages. And for that, you're going to give me John's cell phone.
Yes, ma'am. Just let me power it up.
Power it up. John Panett, this is Judge Judy Scheindlin. How are you? I'm very well, thank you. Do you have a moment for just a couple of quick questions for me? I'm here, as you know, trying a case involving your son and this young woman who took his car without permission. Are you familiar with that? Okay. Did he ever ask you for any money to help him repair this car? When was that? 3 months ago. Do you remember how much it cost you, sir? Approximately. And did you use your credit card? Did he pay you back that money? I know, I have children. Did he tell you how it happened? That he needed a new transmission? Was he driving the car? Okay. Very good. And you used a credit card? Okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you taking the time. Bye-bye now. What a nice father you have, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And as a matter of fact, your father does remember helping you out and paying for this transmission a few months ago.
That's correct.
Do you know what he doesn't remember?
What?
He doesn't remember you paying him back.
Well, I owe him money pretty much all the time, and I am always paying him. So I'm in the process
that he
of
doesn't
paying him.
remember. I mean, he does remember laying this money out for you, but he doesn't remember the fact that you paid him.
I have not fully paid him back, Your Honor. I apologize.
Well, how much have you paid him, sir?
Well, I owe him a total of quite a bit more than that, so I guess if you got down to that bill, I haven't paid him any because I'm paying him for things that I owe him.
Well, you have no objection to making the check payable to your father, do you?
No, not at all.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,593.83 to be made payable to John Panett. Thank you very much. That's all.
Lisa White is suing business owner Susan York for the cost to repair her vehicle. Lisa claims Susan's son, 8-year-old Dylan, hit it with a rock.
Miss White, it is your complaint that Miss York's little boy, I assume this little boy, was throwing rocks in the street, and one of the rocks hit your car, causing some damage.
That's correct.
And you want his mother to pay for the damage. Miss York says she doesn't think her son was responsible for that. He was merely rolling rocks, although she wasn't there. She says that it was really your conduct that was outrageous on that day. So tell me when this happened.
It was approximately 7 to 7:15 in the morning on May 12th. I was on my way to work. I was traveling down East Yacht Drive.
Where is that?
It's in Oak Island, North Carolina. As I approached the intersection where the children were, they were in the street.
How many children were in the street?
Approximately 5, 2 boys and 2 or 3 girls.
I assume they were waiting for the school bus?
That's correct.
Okay.
As I approached, I noticed that they were playing in the street, so I slowed down. They moved to the shoulder of the intersection. One little boy was throwing stones into the other empty lot across the street, and as I approached, Dylan threw a rock at my car, and I heard it hit.
You saw him do that?
Yes, ma'am.
So you stopped your car, and what did you do?
I got out, and I'm like, you, come here, what's your name? And I said, look at what you've done to my car. I said, where do you live? He said, down the street. I said, you get in my car, and I'm taking you to your mother to show her what you're doing at the bus stop. Well, he had extra stones in his other hand, and he threw those down. I said, no, you pick those up, you put them in my car, and we're going now. So he got into the car, and I took him straight to his mother's house. I told him to go upstairs and take the stones with him to show whoever was there. I didn't know which parent was home. I said, take those and show them what you've been throwing at my car, and send them downstairs to talk to me. And she came down to talk with me.
And what did she say?
Well, she asked him, did he do it? And why did you do that? I told you not to throw stones. I told her.
What did he say?
He's like, well, it was an accident. I'm like, no, it was not. I saw him do it.
He said to his mother it was an accident.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up next to your mother. Dylan, how could it be an accident if you were throwing the stones?
I was rolling them across the road, and she was going like 70.
Dylan, I don't want your nose to get long. I want you to tell me how it's an accident that stones that you were rolling on the ground hit somebody's car.
I rolled it, it bounced up on another
You rolled
rock.
it and it bounced up. A rock.
It hit another rock and it bounced.
That's a fib, Dylan. You're not supposed to fib anytime, especially not when you're in court, because that's a fib. If your mother doesn't know it's a fib, I know it's a fib. You and your friends were throwing rocks, right?
Yes.
And one of the rocks hit her car.
Yes.
See how easy that was?
Yes.
What your complaint is, Miss York, and one that I quite telling, is that Miss White exercised very poor judgment in putting your son in her car.
This is correct.
Because I don't think North Carolina is any different from any other place in this country. You don't take somebody else's child and put them in your car. That's very poor judgment, Miss White. I don't think there would have been anything wrong in you saying, if you live right down the street, you go right home, I'm going to follow you, so that you would know where he lived. But you don't take anybody else's child and put them in your car. Now, can I see a picture of the damage to your car?
I do have a photo, but you cannot see the actual dents or chips in the car, in the paint.
Well, it should just be one.
No, there's actually several. I have a police report stating that the officer noted 6 chips areas.
Well, he didn't chip it 6 times. He threw one rock. That's according to you.
He had several stones in his other hand. I don't know how many stones actually hit.
I don't know how many children were involved in throwing stones, but you said to me, I saw him throw a stone. I heard it hit my car.
it
There's
hit.
a difference in hearing 1 or hearing 6.
Your Honor, may I say something? When she drove to my house, I saw one little dot, and then in return, it ended up being dents. I never saw a dent. She even herself said it probably won't be much.
Well, what she's suing you for is $300.
Yes, ma'am.
Which isn't much. I think what your complaint is, quite frankly, despite the fact that I read your answer, and your answer gave me the same malarkey that he was rolling stones. Children don't roll stones. They throw stones at cars. And that's what he did, because that's what he just told me he did.
Right, yes, ma'am.
So you're responsible, because if you want to make sure that your son doesn't do that, and I assume he's done it before, right?
Not that I'm aware of, no, ma'am.
Never heard of him throwing rocks before?
Not at cars.
At anything?
I mean, he's a little boy. I guess he does throw rocks, yes.
Okay, well, if he's a little boy and he throws rocks, then you should be out there with him waiting for the school bus.
Your Honor, I would like to say when he came home from school, I had asked him what happened. And he admitted that he had been rolling rocks.
Rolling rocks doesn't...
Rolling rocks, throwing rocks, and one hit her car. And then he proceeded to show me how she forcefully put him in her car. I have a written statement for...
I don't take statements from people. She had no right to put him in the car, take him in the car, ask him to get into the car, pick him up. Absolutely no right to do that. He wasn't injured. He went off to school that day. Did you go off to school that day?
Yes.
Did you have a good day in school that day?
Yes.
So he wasn't injured, emotionally or physically. But she did the wrong thing, and I've told her she did the wrong thing. So I read her the Riot Act. You still have to pay to have a car fixed.
That's fine.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all.
26-year-old Christopher Bolin is suing fellow partygoer, 18-year-old Michael Juarez, for denting his car during a fight. Michael claims the damage is not his fault.
Mr. Bolin, it is your claim that Mr. Juarez, during an argument at a party, threw someone into your car and damaged it. And Mr. Juarez says he didn't do that.
Yes.
When was the party?
May 29th.
Questions are going to get harder, Mr. Bolin.
No, I'm sorry.
Who, what, when, where, and how? Those are the questions you should always come prepared to answer.
All right.
All right? Yeah. What date was the party?
May 29th of 07.
Who was there?
There was a lot of people there.
In whose house was the party being held?
It was at a friend's house down the way from my house. I don't even know the person, actually.
Who knows the person?
I know his name is Ryan.
Who did you have a fight with?
I had a fight with him right there. I don't know his name.
With you? With Richard?
Yes. Yeah.
What'd you have a fight with Richard about?
It was because at the end of the party, my phone was missing, and I was trying to look for it, and I went around asking everybody, and when I went to go ask him, we had a confrontation, and then we started fighting. It was a quick, like, 2-minute fight, didn't last so long.
Why did you fight with him?
Because we started arguing, because I wanted to see if he had my phone, and we started arguing, and...
No, explain that to me. Mr. Juarez, your phone was missing. You asked to see his phone.
Mm-hmm.
What did he say?
He said no.
Yeah?
No, that's not right.
Shh, just a second.
So? He said no for a minute, and then he finally showed it, and it was dark. It looked like my phone. I wanted to see it. He wouldn't let me see it. And he said, and we started getting into it.
What do you mean you started to get into it? You started to get into it.
Yeah.
You accused him of stealing your phone.
Yeah, because I was missing my phone.
I'm speaking.
I'm sorry.
Did it turn out that he stole your phone?
No.
Where was your phone?
In the car.
So you made a mistake?
Yes, I did.
So you had this fight over something stupid where you made a mistake. And you started to act physical with somebody who says, don't accuse me of being a thief. Isn't that what happened?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, tell me about throwing somebody into a car.
I pushed him.
And he fell into a car?
Yes.
So whose fault is that? Mine?
No.
Whose fault is it?
All right.
Whose fault is it?
I just pushed him. I didn't mean to him go in the car.
Is there something wrong with you? Who is this person here?
That's my mom and my aunt.
You don't want to embarrass yourself any further in front of your mother.
No.
Whose fault is it if you pushed him and he fell into his car?
I pushed him. I didn't mean for him to fall in the car.
Your Honor, he didn't actually...
Jump! Do I look as if I need any of your help?
No, I'm sorry.
You want to have a talk with him. Is your last name Juarez?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
I'm going to give you 30 seconds or less to talk to your son. Right up there.
It's your phone.
Now your mother's going to sit down.
Yes.
Whose fault is it, do you think, that his car got damaged?
I pushed the man, but I don't think it's my fault because how big I am and how big he is, it'll take a lot of force for him to make a dent in the car. And if it made a dent, it would have gave injury to the man, and I'll be right here getting sued by him. That's why I feel
Whatever
it's
it
not my
was,
fault.
it didn't work, Mrs. Juarez. Could I please see the pictures of your car?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
18.
What do you do?
I'm a student, AVC.
Stay there. Perhaps forever. Go for continuing education. You have an estimate.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the estimate?
From Scooty's Auto Collision.
What is the
Oh,
estimate?
for
Not from
$995.
whom? Who, what, when,
Sorry,
where?
$995.
Mr. Juarez, you did the wrong thing. You made a mistake. You accused somebody of being a thief. When they chose not to play along with you, you started an argument. Your argument resulted in this young man's car being damaged by you, because when you pushed him, the natural consequence of your pushing him was him falling into the car. Now, you didn't intend to damage the car. You intended to damage him. Unfortunately, the car got damaged. You're just lucky he didn't get damaged as well, because then I would have wiped up the floor with you. And so would the police department. If you happen to be built like you are, you have to use your strength and your girth wisely, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Not like an idiot.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $995. That's all.
Vicky Madure claims former friend Becky Seifert ruined her credit by not paying on credit cards she helped her get.
Ms. Madura, the defendant was a friend of yours.
Yes.
Who had terrible credit. And it is your claim that you were trying to be nice to her and she'd have a credit card. If you would take it out, make her a co-holder of one of the cards. You did that for her. And the understanding was the bills would go to her and she would take care of the bills. And it is your claim that subsequent to that, she wanted to buy a motorcycle. And again, you agreed to be a friend and you co-signed the loan for the motorcycle with the understanding that she would make the payments promptly, which she failed to do. You subsequently found out that not only had she taken out the one credit card, but because she had all of your information, she took out a series of credit cards and built up a balance of thousands of dollars. She was also behind on the payments. She was behind on the payments on the bike as well. As a result of that, your credit, which had been pristine, took a dive. So you're suing for two things. You're suing for the return of the motorcycle to you or its value so that you can sell it and get out from under the payments. And second, you want damages for her ruining your credit. Ms. Seifert says that she kept her end of the bargain. She has paid on the motorcycle, although she acknowledges she doesn't pay in a prompt manner. She pays when they threaten her. That's not what she says, but I gather that's the case, that when they threaten to either sue her or repossess the motorcycle, she makes a payment. That still doesn't positively impact on your credit. And she says that she kept her end of the bargain by making the payments on the credit card. She also says that you opened up all these credit cards for her, not just the one that you say, but all of the others. When did you open up this credit card with her as a co-card holder?
Probably around June of '05, and there was only one card, and if there was all these credit cards...
No, just don't, you don't have to answer for her.
Okay.
You opened up one
June
credit...
of '05.
And with what financial institution?
MBNA, MasterCard, and both our names are on it.
And as far as you know, that is the only card that you authorized her to get?
Yes.
With your information?
Yes.
How many cards did she get using your information?
4 or 5, counting the second MBNA she took out, that she succeeded. I have documentation.
I'd like to see it, please.
Your Honor, there was only one MBNA card. There wasn't two.
I have how many?
There was two Chase. There was one MBNA.
No.
Ms. Seifert, how many cards did the plaintiff agree to take out in your name?
Ma'am, I went to creditcards.com with her information
listen
because...
to me. Listen.
We never determined a number. The cards that I had, that I used, several of them were mailed to her home, to her address. I didn't go to her house and steal those cards.
Ms. Seifert, you don't honestly expect, coming here today, that you're going to get over on me,
No,
right?
I don't. I'm
Good.
just telling you.
So then let me ask the questions and don't skirt around the answers, because I'll take you and I shake you. And then I get the answer.
Okay.
You came to the plaintiff and asked her if she could take out a credit card and put you as a co-holder on a credit card so that you would have a credit card to start to build up your credit. That's what you asked her, I assume. Is that right?
She offered.
Well, how would she know that you needed it, madam, unless she knew that you didn't have a credit card?
Because we were going on vacation together and we were talking about finances for vacation and the things our kids could and couldn't do.
And?
And I explained to her that I did not have a credit card with much credit on it.
That's okay. Good. So she agreed to get one credit card Now, after she got the one credit card in June of 2005, when did you apply for the other credit cards?
I did it all at the same time on creditcards.com when I got the one credit card.
Just a second. I told you, don't play with me.
I'm
I'm smarter than you are. You just said to me, I got the other credit cards on creditcard.com after I got the one credit card.
That's not what I said.
That's exactly what you just said. I have a tape.
The one time on creditcards.com. And several cards were mailed to her house, and she knows that.
Don't tell me what she knows. Why did you take advantage of a situation where she said she would get you a credit card?
It was very bad judgment on my part.
Now, credit cards, did you use them to make purchases?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay all the credit cards on time?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Then you ruined her credit.
Then I signed to be responsible for all of them, all the papers she asked me to, and it was taken off of her credit.
Listen to me. You show me where, once you signed a piece of paper to be responsible, because so far you're irresponsible, it impacted positively on her credit. Show me.
I don't know where it acted positively, but she was even told it was taken off her credit after the affidavits were signed, and I also have 2 receipts for $6,500 we've paid her.
Just a sec. For?
Towards the credit cards.
Well, you didn't pay it to her, you paid it to the credit card for things that you bought.
No, we gave it directly to her to take care of it.
Doesn't make any difference, madam. Don't you get it? Once you become a deadbeat in the credit card world, you don't automatically become not a deadbeat just because you pay the credit card. You remain a deadbeat.
But they said that because they called it fraudulent, it would come off of her report.
So you acknowledge that you fraudulently
No,
applied?
she made me sign those papers because if I didn't, because I'm on probation, she was going to call my probation officer, which she threatens to do all the time.
Sounds like a great idea to me. Now, let's get to the motorcycle. She also co-signed a loan for you for a motorcycle. Is there any reason why you did that, madam?
I was trying to be good-hearted, which I will never do again.
You have children?
Yes, I'll never even co-sign for my children. I've learned a lesson the worst way.
Okay. Now, do you pay for the motorcycle on time?
No, ma'am, I haven't.
Which means that you have destroyed her credit.
Yes, ma'am, I probably have with the motorcycle.
Good. Now I'd like to see what papers you have.
They asked me to bring, I brought a picture of the motorcycle. She wants the motorcycle back, but the title is solely in my name. So if she wants the bike back, she's going to have to get my name off the title that she lets ride that bike, and she's not capable of riding it herself.
Just a second.
And then I have a statement now that shows that all my payments are current.
You make your payments late.
Well, I mean, it shows that I'm current right now.
I don't care whether you're current right now. You make your payments late. Can I see the title to the motorcycle, please? When did you co-sign on the motorcycle?
October 05.
How much have you paid on the motorcycle?
I've made all the payments except the one she made, and I
How
paid
much
her back
do
for
you
them.
pay?
$250 a month, ma'am.
How much is the loan?
She owes, right now, there's still almost $12,000 owed. Right here it is. $11,818.42 owed.
Who are you?
Becky's boyfriend.
Stand up. What do you do for a living?
Run a rubber mill.
You earn a living?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why don't you refinance this motorcycle?
I already have one in my name.
So what?
I don't know, ma'am.
What?
This was between them.
Well, I understand that, but you live with her. You sleep with her.
Yes.
So why should she be on the hook for her bad credit?
She was having trouble with her credit way before us.
I'm asking you a question. I just said to you, she sleeps with you, you live with her. Why don't you, the two of you, refinance this motorcycle and get it out of her name?
Well, I've got too much in my name right now with my house, my cars, and my motorcycles, so...
Your motorcycles?
I have 2 motorcycles, yes.
Well, why don't you sell one?
Because I like them.
Yeah, but you have a problem. You live in a home with this lady, and she's got a problem. So why don't you help her fix it?
Well, I did. I took out a 401k loan and paid off the credit cards that she had with her to help her out. I mean...
What does she do?
Huh?
What do you mean, huh? What does she do?
What does she do?
Yeah, what does she do?
As far as?
As far as a livelihood.
She works in a doctor's office.
She make a living?
Yes.
So why doesn't she refinance it?
Your Honor, I don't know.
Why don't you refinance it?
I can't get it just in my name, Your Honor.
Well, maybe you can get it in his name. He owns his own home.
Well, we haven't tried that, but the last time he tried to get a loan, they said he had too much credit out.
Then why don't you sell the motorcycle?
I just haven't found anybody that'll buy it. It's not worth what we owe on it.
Now, she says she wanted to sell it. Her problem was she couldn't get what was owed on it. So you would have no problem signing it over to her, right?
As long as it's out of my name, I have no problem. And I've told her that
Fine,
before.
absolutely perfect. Have her sign this over to her,
That's
please.
a memorandum title, ma'am. But that is not the actual title.
So, I understand that. The
That's what I'm
actual
asking.
title has a lien on it. She can do it. As a matter of fact, we'll prepare that order that you'll sign.
That's fine.
Good. Now we know that this is now your motorcycle. We will prepare that order. Now you're suing her for $3,000 because in addition to the return of the value of the motorcycle, you want damages for ruining your credit, right?
Yes.
And hopefully the $3,000 that you're suing for that will help compensate you for the loss that you're going to suffer on the motorcycle. Do you understand?
Yes.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the addition to the order that this will now be in your name subject to the lien. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all. Thank you.
Chastity Bell claims her ex-boyfriend's friend, Anthony Carper, owes for a loan to pay court fines. Oops.
How are you related to her?
I'm not related to her. I'm the witness's mother.
Which witness?
Right.
Jesse.
I don't know.
You don't know she's your mother?
No, I do, but I mean, I don't know how this all came about.
I do.
We're going to find out.
Yeah, you are. Thank you. Thank you.
Miss Bell.
Yes.
How old are you?
22.
You work?
Yes.
For whom?
My father.
Doing what?
I'm a receptionist of his company. I've been working there for about 5 years.
Is it a successful company?
Yes.
How many children are there in your family?
I have one brother and one sister.
Is your sister younger or older?
She's older. She's 32.
So you're the baby daughter?
Yes.
Pretty one.
Thank you.
According to what I read, you used to be involved romantically with him.
Mm-hmm.
The one who's going to sit up and uncross his arms.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was a friend of this one.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So you became a friend of this one.
Well, I was friends with him before Jesse and I actually got into a relationship.
And I gather that your father must have been thrilled with your choice of boyfriends.
Absolutely not.
Now, I could tell that before I even sat down, because these two charmers ended up in jail.
Correct.
For whatever. We'll figure it out. And it is your claim that you loaned Mr. Carper money to pay off his criminal fines.
Correct.
Mr. Carper says that you did pay off his criminal fines, and you did so as a gift because you were a friend of his. He says you were more than a friend of his, that you had a romantic relationship.
We were never boyfriend and girlfriend.
Listen, he didn't say boyfriend and girlfriend, he just says you were intimate with both of them.
No.
And all I can say is yuck. Can you imagine a father who has a company that has enough money to employ a receptionist? And this is the boyfriend and this is the friend that she goes to visit both of them in jail? How many times did you go to visit them in jail?
I never visited them in jail.
Oh, good. At least, thank God for that. No. What were you in jail for, Mr. Carper?
Personal reasons, ma'am.
Personal reasons is not a criminal offense. Shh, quiet.
I made stupid decisions, Your Honor.
Mr. Carper, when I ask a question, I expect an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
What were you in jail for?
Possession.
Possession of?
Schedule 2 substance. Pills.
Was it the first time you were arrested?
No, ma'am.
And the last time you were arrested was when, sir?
Before I got incarcerated.
When were you incarcerated?
It's March of 2002.
And how long were you in prison?
30 months.
What prison?
Coffeewood and Camp 7.
Are you still on parole status?
Yes, ma'am.
Until when?
It's indefinite.
You're on indefinite parole?
Yes, ma'am.
Fabulous. Now, your friend, what's his name?
Jesse Goff.
Jesse. How long have you and Jesse been friends?
Since I was 5 years old, ma'am.
And what was he in prison for?
Assault.
Assault?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had Jesse and Miss Bell been friends?
They had known each other for a long time. I never met her. She said I knew her before they started dating. I never met this girl until I came home. I didn't know who she was. So that's a lie right there.
How long did you think they were involved? He was in prison with you, right?
We were in the county jail together.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
When were you in the county jail together?
2003.
Did he know her then? Were they involved then?
I take it. No, they weren't involved.
No, we were
When
not.
did you first hook up with Jesse?
I started talking to Jesse actually back in high school, about 9th grade.
When did you start to see him romantically?
I want to say July.
And he's just out of jail?
Yes.
You're his mother?
I am.
Sometimes you bake a souffle and it falls. Happens. Tell me about the loan.
I loaned him
$4,589 on September 29th to pay off his charges, which I have receipts of.
Well, tell me how it came about that you laid out that money.
Well, I saw him apply after job after job after job, and he kept getting turned down because he didn't have his license. And
what do you mean you saw him?
Well, I would take him and Mr. Goff to apply at jobs. And
why would you do that?
I was trying to help them out by taking them to fill out job applications so they could get a job, and I didn't want them to get locked back up. And I asked Mr. Carper if I were to pay off his fines, he could get his license and get a job, and if him and Jesse were willing to be my roommates, because I'm going through separations, so I...
Separation from?
My husband.
You have any children?
I have a 3-year-old daughter.
So you wanted to take your 3-year-old daughter and be their roommate?
Yes.
Who do you live with now?
Now I live with my parents. I'm currently trying to
stay there because your judgment is impaired, big time.
Recently it has been, I do agree.
If you are a 22-year-old woman and your judgment is impaired and all you're doing is hurting yourself, that's one thing. But to take your 3-year-old child and on purpose, move in out of your parents' home into an apartment with 2 convicted felons who are on parole, one for drugs, and I'm not so sure about him now, is the kind of lapsed judgment that your parents aren't going to tolerate.
It's actually a house that I own, and my husband, my ex, moved out, and I could not afford the mortgage, and I actually lived there, and it was either I find some roommates or I try to...
I don't care if you have to live in a shelter. You don't take a 3-year-old child and put a 3-year-old child in a circumstance where you have 2 convicted felons, one of whom was there for pills.
I agree.
Got it?
It was also cocaine.
So you paid off his fines?
Yes.
And how was he supposed to pay you back?
He was going to pay me monthly because I actually charged it on a credit card, and he agreed to pay me monthly. At first, a little bit over the minimum payment, and then, you know, he was going to pay me a lot more.
What were the fines for? Can I see the piece of paper that you have? You think that's a real diamond in his ear?
It definitely is.
I doubt it.
Is that a real diamond in your ear?
Of course, ma'am. I don't wear fake things.
What?
I said I don't wear fake things. Just
Could I see it, please?
You said
take it out.
Wow.
Thank you. Felony fee, fines, $1,000. Felony fee, $350. Jail admission fee, $25. And court-appointed attorney, $437. Love it. Commonwealth of Virginia. Good for Virginia. And what would happen to you, Mr. Carper, if you didn't pay these fines?
They would probably violate my parole.
And then what would happen to you?
Then I would not see the light of day forever.
What do you think fines are for, sir?
To be paid, ma'am.
Because they're part of your what?
Probation.
Part of your what? Punishment.
Yes, ma'am.
And if somebody else pays your fine, then you have no...
Punishment.
Right. Why do you think a court would allow that to happen?
Because it's the law, ma'am.
What's the law? Why do you think a court would allow somebody else to do your punishment? Let me ask you this, sir. We've already established that payment of the fine is what?
Punishment.
Right. And you're going to jail was a form of?
Punishment, ma'am.
Now, you couldn't say to somebody else, listen, I want you to do me a favor. I don't feel like going to jail. I'm going to go out and sell a whole bunch of pills and maybe a little cocaine, so I'm going to have a couple of bucks, you know. I'm going to give you $10,000 to do my 30 months. You think that the state would permit that to happen?
No, ma'am. What
would the person say to you now? I don't mind going to jail. I have nothing else to do. I could really use the $10,000. I'll go to jail for you for the 30 months. You think the state would permit that?
No, ma'am.
Because then you wouldn't be doing your own. Let somebody else pay your fines. You're allowing somebody else to do your...
Punishment, ma'am.
Is he a quick learner or what? So the first thing you have to do in order to do your punishment is sell your diamonds. That's what the first thing that people do is sell their diamonds, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Then they pay the rest of their debt, $4,500. Maybe you can get $89 for this Hope diamond. When did you give him up as a boyfriend?
We weren't really actually together because he's not capable of just having one girlfriend. We were supposedly together for probably about maybe a month.
You are an articulate, nice-looking girl who clearly has very low self-esteem. Because if you didn't have low self-esteem, you wouldn't have been involved with either one of them.
Correct.
You have parents who have a business, you have a child, you've made some bad judgments, but you're only 22 years old. You have the capacity to change. You have anything you want to add to what I've already said?
I do.
I mean, I'm just dying to hear why you would come be her witness if your son is sitting over there.
Because what's wrong is wrong, and you're absolutely right. He's skating his punishment.
Do you have anything new to add?
I think it's a fine how you do to thank somebody for doing all that she did for you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. By the way, did she also pay your son's fines?
Yes, she did.
Did he pay her back?
No, we actually go to court for that on March 7th in Prince William County.
Should we just hang out here?
Just a second. Just a second. So why don't you do this? You're his mother, right?
I am.
You made him. You raised him. Why don't you pay his fines?
Because he's 24 years old and I'm not responsible for him anymore.
Right, yeah, I know, but you're more responsible than a stranger. Maybe you should just let
I
him
would
go
not
back
have
to
paid
jail.
his fines in the first place.
You would let him go back to jail?
I would.
You're absolutely right. Sit down. In any event, she paid $4,589 in order to keep you free. I'm entering a judgment for $4,500 and his diamond. Thank you. That's all.
Paxton Durlow is suing tattoo artist Breezy Barrett for breach of contract on the bartering of a vehicle. Paxton says Breezy was supposed to tattoo him in exchange for a truck.
Mr. Durlow, you traded your truck for services to be performed by the defendant, who's a tattoo artist. She paid some in cash for the truck, is that right?
Correct.
And the remainder was to be worked off in this barter arrangement. Is that right?
There was also a bike included in the deal as well.
That you got?
Yes, correct.
Your claim is that Miss Barrett did half of the tattoo and then modified the agreement that you had to complete the tattoo by telling you that you could only come for your appointments between 9 and 12 at a time when you work, therefore requiring that you go to somebody else to have the tattoo finished.
Correct.
That's what you want to pay for, plus some harassment nonsense. Everybody's been harassed. You know who's most harassed here?
You.
And Miss Barrett says that you caused her to lose business because what you did was you kept canceling appointments. And in addition to that, you sexually harassed her. So she's counterclaiming. When did you make this deal with the truck?
I'm not exact on the dates at all. I mean, I have the contract, I guess, in here. So
okay, so let me have the contract, please. Okay, so the sales agreement requires that the tattoo is to be completed in 2-hour sessions, no more than 3 weeks apart, unless otherwise agreed to by the parties, and that's dated 7/21/06, correct?
Correct. Yes.
When did you start the tattoo?
I was already in the middle of tattoos. This deal came on after I was already getting work from her.
So when you were supposed to start it in 2-hour sessions, according to the agreement?
Yes, that would have been starting that date.
So? What happened?
Well, the appointments were going well. Then I would get an occasional push. She would ask me if I could come in on a different day because there was a person that absolutely had to have that appointment. And it was a way for her to make money and that she was a sole provider for her home. So I agreed. And then it became redundant. And then
what?
I didn't agree any further. It started getting to where I couldn't get anything done.
Did you ever cancel appointments yourself?
The last time that I had an appointment to go to was one I canceled.
How many times did she change your appointment?
I believe 4 times, maybe even more.
And it was always because she had a paying customer?
A paying customer or something came up. She did have a mother who was terminally ill, which I fully understood. And she also changed appointments there, too, which I did not consider in the claim.
Okay. When did she tell you about this business of only coming in the morning?
After a discussion of me not getting anything done, the whole conversation was via text, and I have it, if you'd like to see it.
I'd like to see it.
Would you like to see pictures of the truck as well?
No.
Okay.
Not necessary. Oh, well, here's your problem. Breezy, you're Breezy, right?
Yes.
Here's your problem. It is clear to me that the two of you have a dispute in these text messages with regard to whose fault it was, etc. You know, clearly you were not yourself as a result of your mother's illness, because that's clear from these emails, and that there were certain stresses in your life. But when you say to him, in the future, you shouldn't off your artist until after the work is done would be enough for me to say that you breached this contract and I wouldn't let you do any work on me. That's a threat. I mean, I don't know anything about tattoos except that I've seen them. They're done with needles, right? Correct. I wouldn't let anybody near me with a needle who said to me I wouldn't take any action until after it was all done and I was happy. You want to say anything to me?
I would love to.
Go ahead.
After 6 months of tattooing on him, I canceled 2 appointments.
Well, that's too many.
One being I'm a sole provider of my children. I only work 5 hours a day because I have preschool pickup, drop off, daycare closes.
Whatever. Listen,
Okay.
he's not your mother.
ready, because Dinahs are back.
Oh!